Oh, wow, we don't even have the numbers set up here yet, do we? Sorry for the delay, everybody. Took me a little bit longer to do the announcement than I thought it would. I kind of got a little rambly. I apologize. I didn't mean to. I kind of meant to. I didn't really mean to. Hang on, I can't believe we don't have any of this stuff here. Hang on, hang on. We haven't streamed in 5x4 in a while. This is funny. Oh, that's my sister. Hi, sister. Let's see here. It's an old runner here. Let me get you some music at least while I'm getting this set up. Holy crap. Anybody looking forward to D3 today? I hope at least someone's looking forward to D3 today. You know, in a positive light. Which I'd explain, but, you know, just go watch the announcement video. You know, instead of watching me, go watch me. Is that centered correctly? Yes, it is. Perfect. The heck is it? There it is. So we're just going to put that up in the corner. There we go. Oh god, where's the timer? Hang on one sec. We're going to scooch down here. There it is. So what are you? Okay. I'm going to scooch back over here. Whoa! Behold! Hello, Eleazar. I assume you've been keeping track, as I know you would. You would never dare not keep track, am I right? Perfect. Cool. Okay. Yes, no man! The no man returns. Before we go any further, I am going to say... So, first, I do want to say thank you, Eleazar. Whether it's new or old, I still appreciate you. Shoutouts and thank you to Mr. Red, Kira White Noise, Gold Tech, Tazara, Frieza, Wondersoul, Cadmus Lachlan, Majdi, Johnny, Justin T, Papaneeks, Catalin Cormendi, Exem, Seraphim Altaniel, Esinius, Eclectic Oak, Etri, Jesse's Mask, Bragwin, Ciela, and the person who put this on the list and our majority shareholder, Oculus. Thank you, all of you, very much for letting me play this awesome freaking game. Fun fact, this game was actually funded in only 365 days. That's not a joke or a pun. That's the exact amount. For a bit of perspective, that's actually a little bit below average, as it averages about 400 days in order to get a game funded, which is why I bring it up. Which I find vaguely gratifying. For example, Diablo 2 took 423 days to get funded. Now, Diablo 1 was a little bit shorter, but still took 474 days to get funded. So even despite all of that stuff, D3 still actually got funded faster than the other two. And something about that just brings a smile to my face. Alright, so let's make sure we get everything set up here, because before we even get started, let's talk about something. So we've talked about this several times, but to make sure that we are being very clear about this, as is always true, we are reviewing the exact version that we are reviewing. Now, that sounds like a duh, but as has been pointed out... no, Eleazar, I said no anyways. But as I've pointed out several times, it actually matters for the purposes of a review. Even a game that seemingly has no real changes or variances in, like, core mechanics, or, like, big stuff, right? Like, it functionally plays the same. There's still always little details, little nuances, and variances that would change a review. So, for example, this particular version of the game we're playing right now is not on the Switch or the PS3 or whatever else. I actually do own that version of the game, but that version of the game would have access to some things that this version doesn't, and vice versa. So, it wouldn't fundamentally change the review, but it would change the review, and that's kind of the point I'm trying to make in general here. This thing just broke. Right under my thumb. I'm going to have to pull out a new one. That's great. Now I'm blind. It's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to not be able to see the screen when playing D3. So, that's the first thing I wanted to mention because, well, that leads neatly into my next point. Diablo 3, the version we're playing, is always online requirement. That is an automatic negative. There are precious few games that get away with the always online requirement. All of them are multiplayer centric, like MMOs, for example. I'm not going to give WoW a negative for being always online. But there is absolutely no excuse whatsoever for a game like Diablo 3 to be always online. In fact, for quite a while there, a lot of people, myself included, were speculating they were going to pull the always online requirement of D3 because we know they can once they got rid of the real money auction house. I mean, that's true, Dark Phoenix Gaming. But here's the funny thing. We actually have a rule that we established a long time ago, and for good reason. And that rule is that we take into account the launch status of a game when reviewing a game. Now, this is mostly a philosophical rule, because the launch status has nothing to do with the game we're reviewing. All the crap that D3 screwed up at launch, none of that is here anymore, except for the always online thing. You know, I'll talk more about details, but all the specific details, none of that's a thing, right? But philosophically, you know, in the philosophy of how a review works, we want to acknowledge when games screw up. Yeah, No Man's Sky. If we review No Man's Sky, that game's gonna get... Thank you for reminding me. That game is going to get negatives because of how No Man's Sky was at launch. And this is true for a lot of games. If a game comes out buggy or unfinished, or in whatever kind of screwed up state. Yeah, we actually already have precedents on this several times. And we mentioned this back in FF14. Several individual expansions in FF14 got negatives for launch. When we cover WoW, we will give negatives to several expansions for the status of the game at launch. And it's all part of trying to acknowledge the fact that the developers screwed the hell up. Now, if they fixed it, good on them. But the way that works out is like, let's say there's a game that sucks at launch and then is good. Well, then you have a few negatives, but then the positives should overwhelm it, right? Does that make sense? That's the whole idea there. Which brings us neatly to Diablo 3. We'll decide that when we get there, Jay Palmer. Because it's always kind of a case-by-case thing. So D3. Where do I begin? Alright, so most of the time, when we give negatives for a game at launch, it's because the game is buggy, or unfinished, or broken, right? The FF14 example I just mentioned is a good example of that. And... Jesus Christ, Diesel Edge, I hope you're okay. And by that I mean I hope you soon become to a status where you can then be called okay. Is that a ear thing, maybe? Yeah, sorry, I'm got a little distracted there. Diablo 3 did not launch... Like okay. We're going to give... I'm trying to think of other examples. In fact, actually, let me just pull up the spreadsheet, because there's a reason I have a frickin' spreadsheet. Keep track of all this stuff. You're a geek, Lord. No, I'm a professional. There's a difference. I am also a geek, but that has nothing to do with the fact that I use a spreadsheet to keep track of crap. Scroll over here. Come on. There we go. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Give me a moment, because the problem is there's a lot of games we've covered. We've covered quite a few at this point. Cyberpunk 2077. There we go. Perfect example. That's exactly the kind of game I'm talking about. Cyberpunk 2077 is an example of a game that was broken and buggy and problematic at launch, and those negatives are never going away. Those negatives will literally never go away. That's how that works. Those are codified, set in stone, and no matter how good, bad, or in between the game ever becomes, it will always have those negatives because of the launch. Thank you, Belcor Blade. For Trails in the Sky, Rayman Legends, and Kojin Sword of Rewind. Much appreciate. So, there's other examples, but I'm just going to stop there rather than just keep slipping through this whole thing. You get the idea, right? That's an example of the kind of a game that we tend to give negatives for launch status. Diablo 3 is different. I mean, I don't think it's going to go that high, Takoida, but okay. You're looking at a wizard. This is actually my main. My highest geared, my highest everything. This is actually my tank. Because you can tank as a mage in D3, but I don't want to talk about how awesome and amazing this game is. Let's get back to how crap it is. So, Diablo 3 at launch was deliberately and willfully crap. It was a completely functional game. It did have some network issues. Let's be clear about that. But they tend to be overblown. They didn't last very long, and they didn't affect that many people. It became meme status and went away by the end of a week. That's not what I'm talking about. So everybody, of course, knows about the Real Money Auction House, which is awful. The Real Money Auction House, however, is ironically not the biggest problem with D3 at launch. Because there's actually 3 connecting problems, and all 3 are connected. They're all part... I talk so much about interlinking systems, right? Interlinking mechanics. You know, a game that has a good combat with bad encounters and bad bosses isn't fun, because those mechanics need to link. They need to work together to make good gameplay, right? So this can work in a negative sense as well. So we have the Real Money Auction House, the difficulty, and the itemization. These are the 3 big things they screwed the hell up. So let's start with the Real Money Auction House. The Real Money Auction House, also known as just the Auction House, because there was a non-real money aspect to it, which a lot of people forget, was an idea they had to basically take the auction house from WoW and drop it into Diablo 3. On the face of it, that's not actually a terrible idea because it's a way to facilitate trade. That's its whole purpose. It was a way to kind of bake that into the game itself. So I know a lot of people are going to say that I'm dumb and stupid for saying that, and that's acceptable because I stand by it. All it really was at launch, or I'm saying that wrong, all it was without the real money aspect was a way to facilitate trade if you ignore the other aspects of it. Like, we've got like 3 ifs here, but if we were to asterisk this 3 times, I'm okay with the core idea of there being an auction house in the game. However, first, no, the auction house has been completely Thanos'd. It's gone. First problem is the real money auction house. Now, I actually talked about this when this game came out. So here's the problem. When this game came out, and they had a real money auction house, it literally changed how the game had to be coded and designed. If you don't understand what I mean by that, there are rules, very good rules and very strict rules, with regards to transacting money. And that's especially true in the States, but it's also true in the EU, and those are 2 of the biggest markets for something like this, at least at the time. So they had to add all sorts of other little layers and frustrations and aggravations on top of everything. Most people aren't even going to notice them. But they're there. They had to be there because they were legally mandated to be there. It was required in order to solve all those little security and netcode problems in order to ensure that there was the level of financial transaction security that was required. I have theorized for literal years, and I still think of this to this very moment, that the reason this game was always online is not because of any other reason. It's because of that. It's because they needed it to be always online in order to satisfy those requirements. It's another reason why it's so frustrating they didn't remove the always online requirement once they got rid of the damn thing. Because the auction house is gone. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is a branching off of problem number 1. So this is like problem 1.2 here. Actually, we're not up to problem 2 yet. Problem 1.2 is the fact that you could buy gear for money. Do I need to explain this? Like, is there any reason I need to go into this? Moving on to problem 2. Problem 2 is that Excuse me. Problem 2 is that the game changed how itemization worked, how items dropped, and I'm saying all this wrong. How items were generated, what kind of prefixes and suffixes could be on the item budget, and the item drops. All of those things were changed because of the existence of the auction house. So when I say itemization, I kind of mean like everything about it. Everything about what the gear is, how the gear is, and when you get the gear was all changed to accommodate the auction house. In short, and I'm going to say this as neatly as I can, the drop rate in vanilla D3 when it came out was a lot closer to the drop rate of D2, which, as I've already mentioned and iterated several times, is way too low. In this case, they did this very deliberately because the logic here was that with such a low drop rate, it doesn't matter because you have tens of thousands of people who are all kind of slowly generating loot up into the auction house so everybody can get access to decent loot because of statistics, basically. 1,000 people go kill the first boss, and of them, 2 people get some decent loot. It may or may not be something they want, so they either equip it or they toss it up on the auction house, and now there's 2 pieces of loot on the auction. That's the logic. I shouldn't have to explain how incredibly stupid and dumb of an idea that was. As I've already mentioned, I'm not even going to get into fudging of the drop rate. That's actually a whole other topic. Even just from a base vanilla math perspective, this was already a skewed problem, and was designed to push people towards the auction house. Again, both regular and real money. Obviously, they wanted you to use the real money auction house, but the point remains. So all of that sucked. Cool. Okay. But then there's the third problem, and that's the difficulty. Now, this is the one that feels the least attached to this problem, but actually, ironically, is the most attached to this problem. So, if you know this game, you know that we have several difficulty settings. Normal, hard, expert, master, torment. Torment, 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 right? These are the difficulty settings of the game, right? Cool. But this is not what the difficulties were of the game back when it came out. Back then, you had like your normal playthrough, and then you had something called Inferno. And Inferno sucked. Inferno was it was so bad. It was so bad. Inferno, it's hard to even probably explain why. It's not just the fact that they hit too hard and had too much health, although that was a problem. It was also the fact, by the way, hi, the Liar State. Sorry I didn't say hi. You caught me in mid-rant here. But also, it was the specific combinations of which suffixes, the bosses could get. They went out of their way to make each of the bosses have certain, let's call them combined abilities that were designed to kill you. That's it. They were designed to screw you up and kill you. Now, you're probably thinking, isn't that the way it is in current D3? No. They completely changed the entire formula for how it generated suffixes and abilities on bosses after that. Yeah, they had a logic built in to make them freaking kill you. So, what does this have to do with the auction house? Well, the way to survive those fights was to get the best gear. Thus, you were encouraged to sell stuff on the auction house to get the resources, either gold or money, in order to then buy the gear that you actually need to push through Inferno. And you see the trap. You see why this difficulty is the most connected thing to the real money auction house problem. So, all of that sucked. Now the question is, how many negatives is that? Because that's 3 concurrent problems, 3 problems that all made each other worse and made the game kind of crap at launch. I mean, I actually did Crazy Horse, but whatever. I'm okay with giving it 9 negatives. I was leaning towards 6 personally. Now we had a whole speech earlier. Effect launch of status of game at launch that matters for review purposes. I gave a whole... I'm not going to repeat myself. I literally just gave a whole speech about this. So, break those down? Yeah, sure. Auction house. Real money auction house. Okay, never mind. Now I'm talking myself up to 8. So the auction house itself is something that is still a fundamentally bad thing for the game's purposes, for reasons I don't even need to go into. Real money auction house can go straight to hell. Then we have the thing I get the itemization, which is the D2 problem, and then we have the difficulty, which kind of feeds into everything I just mentioned. So, you know, what we could do is we could pull up our own website that we have as a group. I don't know why I always say... My dad always makes fun of me for using the royal we. I don't really do that on purpose. Oh, trust me, Ofect. If you're expecting this... I actually have this whole speech ready for once we finish giving these negatives. Because if you expect this to be indicative of the review, then I have got something else coming. This will probably be the highest gameplay scoring game we've ever reviewed. If you expect me to do anything other than gush about this game for the next week, then you are watching the wrong stream. Okay, here we go. So, 1, 2... Story positives? We'll talk more about that later, because story... I actually have another speech to give about story. Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. I feel like the auction house, ironically, is the least egregious of these problems. So that's 1 negative for the auction house. The real money auction house can go straight to hell. That's 3 negatives right there. Bam. Not even pulling my... I'm not pulling any triggers on that. That is the worst possible type of microtransaction, and they're taking a cut. Screw that. So that's 4 so far. Then we've got the itemization problem. It's pretty much the exact same itemization problem in Diablo 2, so that's 2 additional negatives. And then we have the difficulty problem, which feeds into everything else, and it's actively, aggressively bad difficulty. So it's not, however, the worst difficulty I've ever seen in a game, so that's 2 more right there. So we're thinking 8 before we get to the always online problem. I have no idea, Jay Palmer. I could go Google it if you want, but I'm not going to. Yeah, here's a random question. How many of you in chat, either yourself or someone you know, avoided this game either permanently or for a while because of the status of the game at the launch? Because of everything I've just been talking about. Yeah, I anticipate hearing a plenty of me's or yeses or somethings, because I don't blame you. I really don't. This game was kind of a mess at launch, which is a damn shame, because one of the things I talk about a lot when reviewing games is there's a difference between a game that's crap all the way down and then games that have good core ideas that are just not implemented well. D3 at launch had great core ideas. I mean, there's a reason it turned into the amazing game... Oh, I guess it's over here today. The amazing game we're going to be playing over the next few days. But man... Should also probably mention, those of you who know me know there's something called expansion effect. It's when, you know, the creators of a work have had time and effort and practice with themselves and with the game and with the engine, and they know what they're doing, and so they put out something that's okay. But then the expansion is so much better, like the jump up in quality, right? That's expansion effect. It's when the expansion is so much better than the vanilla. We're going to see some expansion effect here. Reaper of Souls is like a universal positive. It is just going to be a huge bump up in quality. I'm actually looking forward to getting to it. Yeah, anybody who's ever played a Civilization game knows what I'm talking about with expansion effect. Ironically, Blizzard games are key examples of expansion effect, especially like StarCraft into Brood War, for example, or Dark Portal for Warcraft 2, to use another example. Yes, Jay Palmer. Yeah, the Gen 8 Pokemon game, yeah. Okay, so that was Auction House, Real Money Auction House, itemization, and difficulty. Okay. Now we have to talk about always online. So, always online sucks. It's a negative. There's no arguing this. There is no goddamn reason for this game to be always online. Especially since I currently, personally, own a version of this game which does not have always online. The reason I own that is just in case they ever decided to pull the plug, I still had a way to keep playing D3. Like, the always online thing, to really make this very clear, like, there's so many reasons this is dumb. But let me just go down to the two most fundamental, easiest reasons why this is a dumb thing. First and foremost, if my connection has issues for any reason, then my play experience in a single-player game is going to suffer for that. And the second reason is if I have any interruptions in service, either because they're doing maintenance, which they do every week, or, you know, because of any other reason whatsoever, like I have an internet outage, or maybe they have an internet outage, or maybe my modem has problems, or whatever, I cannot play my single-player game. Yeah, you could get booted from the game, and the state of the world you were in is now gone because of any internet reason. It is not an acceptable state of affairs for a single-player game. You want to have always online for a multiplayer game? Don't care. That's fine. Like I said, we're not giving, wow, negatives for always online. But D3, there is no excuse. The question here is that 2 or 3 negatives? And yeah, obviously there's the eventually they're going to shut down the servers problem, which is one of those. I already answered that, Mr. Ed. The Real Money Auction House. It did, Jalita. It did. Oh my god, Crazy Norse, no! Yeah, it's another thing. Ironically, we do not need cheats because this is D3. It's one of the nice things about certain games when we review them. Even if we run into a wall, we have lots of ways around that. Oh yeah, there's actually one last negative I have to give this game before we even get started. Which... I swear this is going to be a positive review. Just trust me. So, it is just one. It is just one additional negative. But it is a negative. It's the party size. Let me tell you a story. There I am. D3 has just come out. Me and my 4 friends, so all 5 of us, are sitting in Vent. We're coordinating and getting ready to group up. We hop into the game. We all decide, we're all deciding which classes we want to roll and how we want to play, and it's going to be so cool and fun. And I start up the group. Someone joins, third person joins, 4th person joins, 5th person can't join. The party size is 4. Now, this is the weirdest one to debate, but since I literally have had multiple interactions in this game where I have been forced to not group with someone because the party size is 4, I think it's okay to give 1 negative for party size, because 4 is not great, to put it bluntly. I know that the 4-player experience has kind of become standard, but D2 was 8, for those of you not familiar with it, and obviously, as I just mentioned, I've run into that barrier several times. So, ironically, a game that's going to absolutely turbo-destroy the co-op category is going to get a negative for co-op. Okay, 12 negatives to start. That's... That's funny. There you go. For those of you who hate this game, this is for you. That's a lie. I was always going to do this, but... just trying to reach out to you here. So, I'm not even sure where to begin with positives. There are so many positives. Let's God, yeah, I'm actually torn because there's mechanic stuff I like to cover first before we actually get into the game proper. So while we're in the menus, you'll notice we've got I've collected 4 billion gold. No, we're not going to do character creation. We're not there yet. We're covering some more fundamental stuff first. So obviously we have a bit of a summary for our career. We can go ahead and see each of our individual characters there. I need to get rid of just testing. That was literally just testing. Yeah, I'm actually lower Paragon level than I thought I was. Almost all of that has been gained in seasons. That's probably why it's so low. So this is a screen you can see. It shows you your base stats of your characters, your total play time on that character. God, I've played that character for 45 hours. Yep, I've played that character for 127 hours. I've played this game a little bit. So you see your level, your Paragon level, your name, class, time played, stats, damage, toughness, recovery, build. Now, this screen is actually more important than you'd think. Not just because of the fact that it's a great way to summarize your characters. Because it is. I can look at this and I can see what my Kanai powers are. We'll talk about that later. I can see my skills. We'll talk about that later. My runes. We'll talk about that later. My talents. We'll talk about that later. But also my gear. Later. And which specific, like, what exact gear I have. The exact rolls I have in it. Any re-rolling I've done. Like you notice I did a re-roll on the Nemesis Bracers. We can see which gems we have in it. We can see how many set bonuses we have. We have the legendary stuff because of the legendary gems. All of this is later. All of this is later. The important part here is this is not just for you. This is not just for you. Oh yeah, you can also, here, check it out. There's the range. You can just hold down control and see the roll range. As you can see, I actually got some pretty good rolls on that stuff. I'm pretty happy with that. So all of this stuff is something you can see for anyone, as long as you can find them. Obviously, this is for myself, but I could look at your profile, and I can see what you did. And you're probably thinking, what's the benefit of that? I'll bring oxygen later! You can see what other people do to get yourself ideas. And the reason this is so goddamn important is because this gets rid of one of the biggest problems D2 had. Info in-game. Being able to see what ideas other people has in terms of gems, in terms of stat priority, because you see what I re-rolled, in terms of what items I'm equipped, what gems I have equipped, what set bonuses I'm going for, because you notice I actually have several sets here, which talents I'm... It's a way to exchange ideas. It's a natural and fluid way to exchange ideas. So even before we start talking about the mouse over game, which is pretty legit in this, the mere fact that it has that capacity to just see what other people are doing is a way to avoid the info in-game problem. So hang on. Let's do, oh gosh, let's do this. I can also look up people like this way. Jeez, that's a weird build. Let's try this. Hang on. So, do you have any characters? No, you probably don't. Where's Pax? There it is. So here's Pax. Now, I know you can do it through friends, because I literally just did it. So I could be like, hey, how is he doing his Crusader? Aha! That's how he's doing his Crusader. There's actually several ways to do this. You can look this stuff up online. That has nothing to do with the review, obviously. But you can look all this stuff up online as well. All of this information is available on Battle.net. You can look up leaderboards. You can look up a party, just random party members. There are several ways to find people, but I don't know if there's just a straight-up search. So I'm going to go ahead and say that there's not just a straight-up search at that one. Anyways, other than online, obviously, other than getting out of the game. So now we have to talk about the mouse over game. I kind of already hinted at that. Hang on. I don't know why I left this screen. I'm going to go right back to the screen. The mouse over game is legit. Not only is this stuff all good mouse over-y, but all this information, it's a little bit truncated, but that's because this is actually a separate mouse over mechanic, separate from the one you will see in the game. So like, I could just glance over that, and it doesn't tell me the specifics or details, but it does tell me what it is and which rune I have, and the relevant part of the Kanai powers, and of course, you can see the whole damn thing there. Also, very minor touch that an enormous quantity of game designers do not understand is color distinction in tooltips. Just from glancing at that, the fact that there is actual color coding, each of which actually specifically means a different type of thing, is extremely helpful. Just at a glance, we can see there's the blue stuff, that's your stats, that's the basic, obvious stats. There's the orange diamond stuff, that's slightly different, we'll talk more about that later. But then there's also the orange text stuff, which is the legendary ability. Then there's the green stuff, which is specifically talking about the set abilities. I think there's actually more, I'm not sure I have anything else on this character. But you get my point, even just at a glance, you can see right there, there's the rerollable stuff, the non-rerollable stuff, the legendary stuff, the gem stuff. Oh yeah, there's also the teal stuff, which I don't think we've really seen here. But anyways, point being, all of that stuff is immediately at a glance. Oh yes, there's also white text, which also helps distinguish it. So we've got blue, white, green, orange diamond, and orange. We also have the little... You can actually see that. Look at that screen right there. Look at the reduced duration of control impairing elements by 20%. You notice there's a little... like 2 arrows going there. That means we've re-rolled that. So at a glance, we can tell that's specifically the thing we've re-rolled. There's also the... Thank you, J. Paul, but there's also the actual flavor text at the bottom. Long ago, a great conclave of mage-smiths convened during a blizzard to channel their collective energy into a single artifact, forging a powerful ring that bestowed upon the wielder mastery over all of the elements. Just some really cool stuff here. Now, hang on, we'll get to options in a minute. But I'm just pointing out that an inordinate quantity of game developers do not understand color distinction in something as basic as HUD and interface. We'll see positives about that in WoW too, by the way. WoW and D3 do a lot of cross-pollinating. We actually already mentioned that. Oh yeah, and then there's the fact that, as Dakota mentioned, you can hold down control, which also shows you the specifics values. This is so... forgive me for gushing so goddamn much. Do you know how few games put this much information into the game? How many games have you seen where you get a necklace and you see 737 intelligence, and that's good, but you don't really know how good that is unless you go Google it, or you just talk to other players who know it, which is the equivalent of Googling it. But if you just hold that down, you can see that's 737 of 626 to 750. That is a huge, huge boost to knowing how good what you're getting is. Yeah, it lets you peek at the math in the game. Yeah. And that's true, not every attack can crit. There is definitely going to be, like, in all honesty, I think there's going to be one negative for info in game, and it's just going to be like a general smattering of stuff all over the place. But a huge amount of information is in the game that allows you to determine. And I gush so much about it because I think it's one of the most info in-game games I've ever played. Yes, effect. We're doing seasons as well, to answer you more clearly. Okay, so that's mouse over, and interface, and profile. I think we're actually done with that at the moment. Double checking. Okay, so we also got our seasons. You can see the previous seasons there. I've actually been in several seasons. Just a couple, really. I didn't fully dig into seasons until later on, and I bounced back and forth. But seasons are fun. We'll talk more about seasons later. Later. Everything's later. Now we got to talk about options. So, as with most modern Blizzard games, the options are pretty damn legit. We've got the usual graphics quality stuff, SSAO, as its usual thing. I actually have large cursor on just because I prefer it, because I'm playing, as you can see, a nice big screen here. Usual stuff, capping your thing. None of that's really all that great. This is, of course, a modern Blizzard game, so they finally figured out that voices and effects can actually be on different bars. I know, it's shocking, but they did manage to figure that out eventually. Okay, looks like you can't see my mouse. I have, no, I've never played Diablo 3 solo. We can also change how many sound channels it's putting out, and the default speakers and cinematic subtitles. All sorts of cool stuff. It also has the option to play in background, so it doesn't mute every time I alt tab. That's most cute. Some basic account stuff, some basic social stuff, some basic chat stuff. Chat colors! I'm going to go ahead and argue that this is a positive by itself. Partially because I was already going to give WoW a positive for this exact same thing. The ability to change the color of each chat message, once again, color distinction, is kind of awesome. It's a great way to, at a glance, see who's saying what and where. And it's pretty much copy-pasted from WoW, and for that reason, I will probably go ahead and pause a bit. Oh, you can also change the chat font size. There's all sorts of fun stuff here. Hang on one moment. So we're going to go ahead and do... Okay, so, HUD. You can turn off pretty much the whole damn HUD if you want to. Just the whole thing. Just... You can also change whether you show tutorials, the clock, which we should turn off, the auto zoom, the auto equip feature. We've got advanced tooltips, which, as you can see, I have on, but if you are getting too much information from the tooltips, turn that off. I'm going to turn that off just so I can show it off. Elective mode. We'll talk about that later. Automatically skip all cutscenes. A weirdly good option. I am absolutely in favor of auto skip cutscenes as being an option. Yeah, elective mode should be on by default. I agree. It's not. If you're playing this game for the first time, turn on elective mode. Rarity icons, which I'll show that on. Show off a little bit. And of course, we can have long floating combat numbers or abbreviated. We definitely want abbreviated. Of course, you can rebind the key bindings, as this is a duh. But either way, between this screen and this screen and this screen and this screen, I'd say this is at least enough for one options positive. Maybe two, but definitely one. I mentioned I'd show off... Whoops. I mentioned I'd show off the tooltip. I'm just going to do that super quick. Here's the abbreviated tooltips. Not quite as indicative. Oh yeah, we also got the icons there now. That's what the icons look like. You can see it right there. You're probably thinking, well, that's irritating. It's actually more for in the field, so we'll see more about that later. There's also the V move, so that's actually really cool. We'll show that off later, of course. We've got a lot of stuff to show off later. Let's go ahead and turn that back on now, because I've already disliked it. There we go. Okay. Hang on. We're not done with the menuing. I'm going through this as fast as I can, I swear. You see this button over here? This is called Rebirth. Rebirth is part of Seasons. But Rebirth is awesome. The way Rebirth works is you take an existing character, like my main character here, and you hit here. I'll do it to someone I don't care about. So you're about to rebirth a hero. This will remove all equipped and inventory items and mail those items to your non-seasonal state. You will have 30 days to claim your mail. The hero will then be reset to 1 and set to a seasonal hero. Yes. Oh, no, from the one I developed. I think the only thing might have been the quest thing, and I don't think that had anything to do with me. I think they took that from D2 and Warcraft 3, so I'm going to go with no. So, this may sound like a kind of a minor thing, all things to consider. But this is actually a pretty cool feature. What this is this allows you to go through seasons without bloating your character screen, is what this is really about. And without losing a character you have an attachment to. So, first of all, there's two... Well, actually, there's like 5, but there's 2 states of existence that are relevant here. So if I were to... I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about. Check this out. So we'll hop in just really quick. It's going to take a moment. Not sure where I am. It should be in Act 2. Woo! Okay, so... as you can see, here's my character. I have 657 Paragon points. And this is kind of the important part. I'm going to go over to the stash. As you can see, I have a couple of items in my stash. 1 or 2 items in my stash. I have a couple of things, is what I'm trying. There's a couple. There's just a couple. There's just a couple. But as you can see, this is important. So we've got the stash. We've got my Paragon levels. And the mail system, which I can't really demonstrate at the moment. But trust me when I say that there's a mail system. Like, if I was to mail gear to myself or whatever, it would be accessible to all of my normal characters. Make sense? Now, listen, Reggie. Now let's switch to... I do have Just Testing, who is just testing. This is actually literally testing for this specific stream. Level 47 with level 1 gear. God.
The fallen star is close.
Hold up.
But
We
there
accidentally
is here too.
started a story character. We didn't mean to do that. Give me a sec. By the way, you can leave game in a safe area instantly or anywhere else after a period of time. Pretty much straight out of WoW. We'll switch down to adventure mode. We'll talk about that later. Adventure mode is a good thing, by the way. I actually like that they introduced adventure mode. Okay, so, as I was saying, notice we have a Paragon level of 0. If I go to check my stash, you'll know there's nothing in it. In fact, we don't even have the second tab at all. We can buy a tab. We also have much less gold. I forgot to mention that. So gold is also per state. So all your normal characters have 1 gold pile, and all of your seasonal characters have their own gold pile. So you got nothing, right? Oh, adventure mode's going to be more than 3 positives. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Please look, you won't be disappointed.
Love how this game looks, too. Look at that. I mean, I know we've been playing D2R, so I'm kind of already spoiled, but love the visual design of this game. Look at that. We'll gush about it later. So it's per mode, per state of existence. So all of this stuff, I don't have access to any of it. That's the relevance. I don't know about hardcore mode. That's why I keep saying... I'm mostly focusing on seasonal and regular. Whoops. Hit the right button there. So let's go ahead and make a new character really quick. And we'll make it hardcore. We'll call it I'm Gonna Die. Alright, let's do it. You have but 1 life, eager hero. If you should die, though your deeds will be remembered, you shall not return again. Customer service will not revive a fallen hardcore hero for any reason. All of your hero's items will be lost forever upon death. I hate to continue to gush about the, about the quality of info in game, but notice how it very clearly explains exactly how hardcore mode works. Just like it explained seasonal mode and rebirthing. So let's go ahead and switch over to adventure. Also, you can start a public game. Obviously, I'm never going to do that. Interesting. Either way, it looks like I do indeed have completely separate stuff for hardcore, as predicted.
I got some new things.
Now here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go over here. We'll talk about the waypoint system later and how it's the best waypoint system in any game ever. But for right now, let's just go to, I don't know, the end of the game. Final dungeon. With no gear and no nothing. And we're just gonna stand right here. Really? Come on. Kill me! Kill me! Why aren't you killing me yet? Kill me! Kill me, damn you. Oh no, they're killing me. I need more killing. More killing. Yes, yes! Do what must be done! Yes! Good, good. At long last, we will have our revenge! Okay, so we have died. So, I'm gonna die has died. This is the special screen. There's how long we lasted. Time played 0 seconds. That's funny. Well, that's because the difficulty scaling is really good in this game. They borrowed it from Legion, specifically. But anyways, have I ever beaten the game on hardcore? In this? No, you'd be able to see it. You'll notice I don't have any hardcore characters. So we can archive the hero. If you get to level 10, which saves you to the Hall of the Fallen Heroes. Or we can just go ahead and get rid of him, because he's dumb. This is actually my very first character in this game, right here, my Barbarian. Anyways, Oxaith, of course, because at the time I was mostly grouped as a druid with my friends, whose name is, of course, Noxaith. So everybody would know who was me, and then it just said lore runner in game, so what the hell do I know? So that's hardcore mode, that's seasonal mode. Rebirth is its own thing, Rebirth. So yeah, Rebirth is awesome. It's a way to enjoy seasonal. I don't want to talk about seasonal just yet. Let's leave seasonal for later. So we'll just go ahead and go with the bot is dead. Who killed it? You, Jacques. It was Jay Palmer. Which, it's ironically, the question was how much of a cut did it take? Wow, that was actually a while ago. That's because it's not there, Melkor Blade. Someday, hopefully. Yeah, the bot was also on hardcore mode. And Jay Palmer was like, ha ha! There we go. But what do you want to put that towards Melkor Blade? Other than the ISD, obviously. Like, I physically... The reason you're probably wondering, why haven't I done it yet? I physically don't have space to build it, and I physically don't have place to put it anywhere. I have so little space in my dinky little one-bedroom apartment. I do not have any place to put it. Oh, the D3 one, by far, Twister. The D3 class has crushed the D2 ones like a bug. It's not even funny. So, I should mention, we have a chat log, and this is a minor thing to point out. But you notice the chat log is listing stuff that happened on both Just Testing and I'm Gonna Die. The only reason I mention that is because your chat log is actually from your account, not from your character, which is a key distinction and helps you to keep track of some stuff a little bit later. So that's a nice little quality of life thing. You know, if you want to play a minion master in this game, you want to be playing a witch doctor. Oh my god, really, Kemek? Do you have a link? Because that would be awesome. Alright, so we talked about all that stuff. There's the leaderboards. Now, I'm going to go ahead and admit, I don't give a damn about, you can only pick one for that one, Melkor Blade. For non-financial transactions, you can only pick one. I don't care personally about the leaderboard, for the same reason I don't care about PvP, but this is actually kind of cool that they include this. There's the hardcore leaderboard, there's the seasonal hardcore, there's the seasonal leaderboard, seasonal hardcore leaderboard, and of course the normal leaderboard, and that's just for grifts. We also have the challenge rift ones, season achievements, which is obvious, and of course conquest, which is also per season. This is all awesome. Like, just the fact that this is here is all super awesome. Mega Man Legends block, you got it. That is not English. I can't tell what I'm looking at. Hi, Seldir. So, I know this is going to sound like a strange thing, but as I've actually said several times, I'm actually in favor of competition. I always have been. And having, like, a leaderboard keeping track of this kind of thing is kind of neat. I like this. You can also sort it a little bit based on overall and which specific set they're using. Solo, different classes, 2-player, 3-player, or 4-player. You can also see all of them there, as you can see, for grifts. And again, it's for grifts, hardcore season, season hardcore. Challenge rifts. So challenge rifts are fun. These are. Let me show you what a challenge rift is really quick. So I'm going to create a brand new character. I don't know what to put that on. Because you're actually your 3, 5, 6 leaderboard stuff. It's competitive, but what you're doing is you're fighting the course, right? You're not actually fighting. There we go. Oh my god. There we go. You're fighting the course. Obviously, you want to have. Oh, that's right. You're right. I don't have to. Thank you for reminding me. You're trying to beat other people, but you're trying to do it as fast as possible. It's speed running. Let's just call it what it is. It's speed running. I love it because it's speed running. So, like, if I was to pop on here and I was to hit game settings, I could hit challenge rifts. Currently, we're doing a Crusader challenge rift. Let's explain how challenge rifts work. So, you can do 1 player, 2 player, 3 player, 4 players. Obviously, we're going to do 1 player. The reward is that you actually do get a reward for finishing the challenge rift at all. The way challenge rifts work is they give you gear and set. This is your build. Now, this is cool because A, once again, it gives you ideas for builds and setups, but B, because just like a speedrun, the whole point is to try and push through a specific thing under very specific and similar, that is to say identical, circumstances as fast as possible. So here's your build, here's your skills, here's your talents, here's your gear. Make it work. And this This is a fascinating setup here that they have for our Crusader. That's... Oh, wow. That's interesting. That is not where I would have... Look at that. Wow, okay. Anyways, so, that's your build. And, of course, we've got your goal, which is you need to beat 6 minutes and 18 seconds to win. And this will go away in about a week, as it usually does. That's... Yeah, it's a seeded run. Exactly. It's a seeded speed run. Do this, go. And that's super cool. I actually really like the challenge rifts thing. So we got the leaderboard, we got the challenge rifts, which we're going to put in on mini games. Like, I actually really like the challenge rifts concept. I do. It's a great way to vary up the gameplay and keep things fresh. And a lot of thought and effort has been put into some of these builds that are just absolutely hysterical or fun or interesting or engaging. So all of that is super duper cool. In fact, I'm going to go and do this. Okay. So that's that. Achievements. So we need to actually decide how we care about achievements. I know that sounds strange, because achievements are usually just whatever, nothing burgers. But some achievements actually give rewards, like, you know, cosmetic rewards. It's almost always cosmetic rewards. This is pretty much straight out of WoW. This is something we need to decide because of how this is going to affect things like WoW. Now, the cosmetic rewards here are usually just slight cosmetic stuff that change, like this thing right here, your banner, which, you know, this has been my banner for quite a while. You can change the shape, you can change the pattern, the sigil, the accent, the sigil position, and what colors you use. There's actually a lot of options for your banners. I've seen a lot of different banners over the years. As you can see, I tend to stick with the basic black and white because it's me and I'm boring and I'm done. But this is a nice little cosmetic-y thing. It's kind of the equivalent of mount in terms of WoW equivalents, but a little bit different, so we're going to put that under here. Banners, of course, have other relevance regardless of what I just mentioned. I'm going to put a question mark by that right now. There are no mounts in D3. You really don't need them. Okay, collection. So, this is stuff that you get for just kind of doing things that I've already mentioned. Hey, I own the Necromancer. Who knew? So you can get wings. Because, you know... Whoa! A little too fast. There we go. So you can get wings. We got just the wings coming out there. So maybe you want Illidan wings. Those are kind of cool. Maybe you want, like, Kerrigan wings. You know, maybe you want to just have bat wings. I don't know. We can have death wings. There's flaming wings. Do you like flaming wings? There's a couple of wings. Portrait frames. This is obvious. It's actually not as big of a list as it probably should be, but that's whatever. Pennants. This is the stuff you carry on your back. You notice I actually do have a pennant on for the Horde. And, naturally, pets. Now, this is a fun one. Because, first of all, some of the pets in this game are really gross. But we're going to get rid of that. No, the relevant part about pets is they're just cosmetic, and they have little sound effects, and they're kind of cool. But they also run around gathering gold for you. It's such a minor thing, but it's a surprisingly nice little moment to just kind of never think about gold again. Not exactly like you need a lot of gold in this game, unless you really dig into it. But, yeah, no. So, a little bit of cosmetic ETH stuff there. Cool. Penance. There we go. Okay. Kind of rapid firing some of the stuff here. Don't care about that. We're going to shut off that. We're going to shut off that. I suppose I could talk about game settings at some point. Yeah, sure, since we're still kind of in menu-y stuff. Okay, so you have... Yes, Jay Palmer. I'm going to take a drink, because I've gotten that question 3 times today. So, campaign, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's the story mode. Adventure mode, which we're still not showing off, and the challenge rift thing I already showed off. So these are the methods, the types of games you can do. You have many options for where to start. Come back to that later. Difficulties. So we kind of already talked about difficulties, but the thing is, you'll notice that there's a decent amount of information on exactly what the difficulties do in the game. It continues to be a thing. What I find funny is, though it lists normal as baseline experience, let's be clear, this is normal. This is easy. In fact, I'm going to take that back. This is normal, this is easy, and this is very easy. If you're all the way down on normal, you're going to steamroll everything in your way. That's by design. As we've talked about before, I'm actually very much in favor of a very easy setting. I mentioned that in StarCraft 2. I mentioned that in other games as well. So this is the I just want to smash through things. You'll also notice there's no real benefit or bonus for doing that. You gain more exp and more gold. Up here, you start to see Imperial Gems. Up here, you start to see new legendaries, as in there's an entirely different loot table that'll start dropping on Torment. And there will also be a variant drop rate depending on your Torment level, which keeps going up and up and up. As you can see, you gain a fairly large amount of stuff when you get all the way up there. So, what this effectively means is there are 3 rough brackets of difficulty. You've got your Torments, which is Torment, I think it's actually 7 and up? I'm trying to remember. I don't actually remember the specifics. At some point, the Torments actually change as well. But you got the high Torments, you got the low Torments, and then you got everything else, which is the normal stuff down here. So 3 relative brackets, which change item drops, which change functionality. Oof! Oh, and of course, you get a lot more stuff the harder you crank it up. But you're not, and I know this is going to sound like a strange statement, you're not really penalized for playing on normal, or hard, or expert, or master. Not really. Because if all you're interested in, I know this from personal experience from several people, so I guess that's secondhand experience, excuse me, from several people I know personally, there's plenty of people who just want to play through the game every now and again, either for the first time, or for the second time, or for the 5th time. So they just turn it on hard, and they just enjoy going through the game again and playing in a different class. There's no detriment. You're still going to be able to play through the game and enjoy the gameplay and enjoy most of what it has to offer. If you want something more, more is there, but it is not mandatory, unlike some games where they effectively penalize you for going down here on the easy difficulties. You can also change whether it's a private game or public game. You can add a tag if you're trying to get random people to join you. Bounties is a common tag. Example of penalizing on either difficulties. No. Because I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's more common than not, which is silly, because I can only think of 2 examples of when they don't penalize you for putting on easy. And I can think of like, and I can't think of any of the 500 examples of when they do penalize you for putting on easy. Whatever. GTA 4. There you go. I think we've actually done. I think we've swept through all of the menu stuff I wanted to talk about. But as I've already said, I don't agree with that von Falkenstein. So, we have officially left the menu, and we've already overtaken the negatives. Now, which class should we make for our first thing? What do you think? Right now, just say it out in chat. We've got a couple options. We're going to create a new character. There's our options. Because now we're going to talk about character creation. We'll talk about adventure mode later. Probably after we beat the game. But once we beat the game the first time, we will not be done with the game. We got other stuff to show off. While people are talking, let's go ahead and discuss the character creation screen. So we see each of the classes and some of the basic options they have. We see a general idea of what they're going to look like. All of them can be male or female. All of them, it's purely a cosmetic difference. However, all of them do also have a different voice actor. And there is a decent amount of voice acting. Unlike in D2, where you mostly just kind of say, the stench of this place is terrible. They actually tend to have dialogue and a degree of character. So the barbarian tends to be the wizened old warrior. The crusader tends to be the venerated I must be heroic type. The demon hunter tends to be surprisingly considerate, which makes sense. The monk is detached. The necro is the necro. The witch doctor is hilarious. You'd think just from looking at him, it's like, oh my god, pure evil. No, the witch doctor is like one of the kindest, nicest, gentlest of the characters. It's hysterical. The wizard, by contrast, is very full of themselves. They are absolutely arrogant to a T. One moment, please. I feel like an option's wrong. No, it's cool, J. Palmer. It doesn't really matter, and I don't really care. So, no poll necessary. We good, we good. Why is it not? Oh, that's strange. Oh. Back into it. Yeah, the wizard's kind of a dick, which sort of informed Li Ming when we got there. Looks like most people are voting wizard. But before we go to wizard, so something that has started becoming more and more common. A queen bee. Something that's becoming more and more common in video game design in general is they have little animatics. You see that in the upper right there? It's just showing off some of the stuff you can do as a barbarian. Just a couple little cool things. You notice it's still going, just showing some of the stuff you can do. Because viscerality, so we talked about this yesterday. Diablo 2 is not a very visceral game. It's not a power fantasy. It's not an action-y game. Even though it is an ARPG, it's mostly about barely surviving and struggling, and that's kind of its overall approach. D3 is about being a chipper shredder and trying to make it work. So as you can see, there's a lot of emphasis on the aforementioned viscerality. And you can see that in the upper right there. So that's, you know, some of the stuff the Barbarian can do and some of the stuff the Crusader can do. In addition to showing off some of that stuff, it also gives you a bit of a text thing. It gives you a tiny little bit of a lore tidbit. Tells you your primary strength, which is important. Every class has a primary strength, and most of your stats that matter pull from your primary strength, your stat. So, you know, you want strength gear, dexterity gear, intelligence gear, intelligence gear, intelligence gear. If you're wondering why it's offset, it's because Necro was added on later on. Anyways. You move aggressively, unleashing a multitude of attacks on enemies. You are tough and unyielding. You tower over others using your rage and physical ability to crush their enemies. You use Fury. So as we talked about, instead of every single class using mana, like was the standard for a weirdly long time in Blizzard games, every class has their own resource and resource mechanic. In his case, it is Fury. You do things that generate Fury, and then you do things that spend Fury. It's a builder-spender. Crusader is imbued with the power of Wrath. Each attack generates more, which allows it so the Crusader is also a builder-spender. Demon Hunter is weird, because Demon Hunter actually has both a typical mana thing, which is the Discipline, which slowly recovers, and Hatred, which is something you tend to build and spend. Monk is, again, a builder-spender. There's a lot of builder-spenders here. This one's Necro's kind of different. Necro kind of likes to care more about the death around it, but also Necro literally uses, it's just the Imperial symbol, type 3B. Necro literally uses corpses as a resource. It just doesn't really show up in the bar. Witch Doctor and Wizard are two of my favorites, though, because both Witch Doctor and Wizard have regenerating mana. The difference is the Witch Doctor has a huge mana pool that very slowly regenerates, whereas the Wizard has a tiny mana pool that regenerates very quickly. And these tend to inform some of the... I've talked about this before. They tend to inform some of the gameplay style and make them varied between each other. So it's actually rather different to play Witch Doctor and Wizard, even though both are int-based, mana-based casters. But anyways, everyone voted Wizard, so we're going to go ahead and go with Wizard. We'll call ourselves Soon to be Deleted. Soon to be Delee will do. Act 1 normal. We're actually going to turn it up to Master. And campaign start. Talk. Here, let me jot down some notes because I don't want to forget to talk about any of this stuff. So we need to talk about seasonal. We need to talk about New Game Plus. We need to talk about waypoints. Co-op is something we need to talk about. Okay, cool. We're cool. Let's do it.
Since my youth, I have been told that I was special. A prodigy of vast potential. I came to the Ishari Sanctum, seeking what knowledge I could glean from the Masters. But I found them fearful of the truth. I would learn nothing from them. But the old books, the prophecies they contained, showed me all that might come to pass, and all that I might become. Then, a star fell from the heavens, the sign that my moment had come. I will go west to Tristram, to stop the darkness that the star portends, and fulfill the destiny that beckons me.
Yeah, a little arrogant. A little arrogant. And yes, that is Crispin Freeman. So each of them has a different... so there's two types of cinematics in this game. There's the full pre-rendered CGI awesome, which will show off in a minute. And then there's the paper-drawn style. Every class and gender, actually, has a slightly different one of those paper ones. Most of them are pretty much just like each other. The only really big difference is the intro one, like the one you just saw here. So I'm going to just do something super quick here. Anyways, so dual wielding. Dual wielding is actually, this is going to sound strange, irrelevant to your build. Your weapon barely matters in this game. And I'll explain why as we get more into the actual difficulties. So hang on. Whoop, whoop, whoop. We'll talk about what the Falling story is later. Oh, and to answer Dakota's question, yes, we'll be talking about the story as we go.
And at the end of day...
Oh, hang on. I forgot to turn that back on. Damn it, I was even reminded, too. Is it here? God, where was that option? I've got to be staring right at it. Where is it? Sound? Of course, it's in the worst possible place. Okay. As I was saying.
And at the end of days, the first sign shall appear in the heavens. Justice shall fall upon the world of men. The armies of light and shadow will clash across the fields of eternity.
So if you're expecting this from the Diablo rewrite, I got news for you. I don't have this kind of backing in studio. Evo's a great artist, but we can't do this.
Leah, are you all right, my girl?
It was nothing, Uncle. Just a bad dream. We should be getting you home.
But there's still work to be done. If these translations are correct, the powers of hell could already be on the move. The world must be told of the coming darkness. You do believe me, don't you, Leah? It has begun.
Leave it, Uncle. It's not important.
He's fine. He's fine. Don't worry about it. But yes, if it's not obvious, the paper aesthetic that they use is actually 3D models. It's a fully 3D cutscene. It's just being painted with textures that make it look like paper, which again is way the hell beyond anything I could do. So just to show off what I was talking about really quick, here's the female wizard.
Since my youth, I have been told that I was special. A prodigy of...
Whoops. Sorry. Let's try that again. Well, whatever. You get the point. It's essentially unchanged. It's just different person and different voice actor. So there's no fundamental difference. No, I'm a terrible artist. There's no fundamental difference between the two. Also, really quick, just because some people bring it up in chat, how many of you remember when this game launched? And I forget what it was actually called, but it was like weapon speed or attack speed or haste, something like that, was the only stat that mattered. And when I say the only stat that mattered, I freaking mean it. It was really bad. It was way, way overvalued. To the point where you could get something that was like a level 40 piece of junk that had higher haste or whatever the hell it was. And it was better than a legendary at level 60. It was pathetic. Ah. Okay, so let's show off the people we're not playing as. So we'll pick my personal favorite canon versions, aka the genders that we'll be using in the rewrite.
All that grows must also wither and die. What dies and rots will then nourish the living. This is the great cycle of being, and we, the priests of Rathma, use our dark art to protect it. Though most do not understand us, we go where we are needed. My master has learned that a star fell in the west, drawing the dead from their graves. He commands me to journey to Tristram and return them to their rest. For if the cycle is not upheld, it would mean the end of all things.
Darkness. No. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Necros aren't evil. What are you talking about? We're cool. So Zool is actually the name of the D2 Necro. That's not. I didn't come up with that. So Zool, the Here's the Storm version, is in gameplay based more on the D3 Necro, but the actual character Zool is the D2 Necro. For the sake of the rewrite, I merged both into one because it was stupid to have two separate Necros. Did that with a Barbarian, too. Crusader. Joanna.
At 12, I swore the oath, leaving home and family. At 16, I saw my master die. I took up her shield and her name, and on that day I became a crusader. Armored by faith, driven by duty, bound to kill the enemies of Zakarum. Sworn to live as a crusader and to die as one. Now, corruption returns to the hearts of men. I see it in the eyes of the mad, hear it in the howling of the damned. A falling star in the west leads me to the town of New Tristram. The crusade calls me, and so I go.
Oh, and by the way, the Paladins, Crusaders, and Templars are all different organizations who all claim to be part of the Zakarum faith. Whether they are or not, well, that's a little more debatable. So we went with Karazim for the monk.
The gods are in all things, and everywhere I see signs of change. The wind bears an unnatural chill, and my people grow uneasy. Now, fire burns the sky and scorches the vault of the heavens. I must carry out the will of the patriarchs. When they need to see, I am their eyes. Where they wish to strike, I am their fist. When they would ignite the light of truth, I am their torch. They have sent me to where the heavenly fire has fallen. My mind is clear. I will rid Tristram of the shambling corpses that have risen in the fire's wake.
And yes, that's the voice actor from Maraud in Warcraft. So, we decided to make the Witch Doctor a druid because of a lot of reasons. But nevertheless, we went with the male Witch Doctor whose name is Nazeebo.
I wander to places beyond imaginings, far from the jungles of my youth. My knowledge has grown vast. The people, they think me banished, shunned to the end of my days. They say I defy the spirits. But I say no. I follow them. The spirits show me alone that the Skyfire is where the end begins. They say this must not be. I live to serve the spirits. So I go. There is none but me to answer the call.
I don't blame anyone for not wanting to play Witch Doctor, because if you don't like spiders, you probably shouldn't play the Witch Doctor. There's the Barbarian, who is the same Barbarian as D2. I don't care what the writers say.
I tire of the empty battles I once craved. I wander, outcast, while my tribe curses the gods who abandoned us. Our home is in ruins, yet I stand firm. 6 days ago, the falling star struck the town of Tristram. The dead rose in its wake. What evil is this? Could it be what I have sought these long years? A foe worthy of my blade.
And yeah, I feel like, this is speculation, I feel like the reason they decided to say, no, the Barbarian's a different character is because the female Barbarian exists. Last, we have Vala, the Demon Hunter.
My family was butchered by Hellspawn. To witness such a thing is enough to leave your mind in ruins. The madness killed my sister and left me frightened and alone. Until I was rescued by survivors who had joined together to rid the world of the creatures of hell. They saw in me the strength to resist the demons, and they forged me into a weapon. Now I am ready. A meteor has fallen in Tristram, and the dead have risen in its wake. I will send them back to their graves. Once I was hunted. Now, I am the hunter.
The Edge! Sorry. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. They just lean into it hard. I think that's part of why it works. What am I looking for? One moment, please. Looking up voice acting. I'm actually curious who that was. That is... Ah, that's right. So it is someone you have heard in WoW, Mr. Red, but it's not Sylvanas' actress, because that was Laura Bailey. We actually got... They have a decent cast here. A lot of the WoW classics. Troy Baker is in this. Dominic Keating, who is awesome, by the way. The Will of a Templar. We've got Crispin Freeman. We've got Grey Delisle, who is the female wizard. We've got Jameson Price, Robin Atkin Downs, Laura Bailey, Gideon Emery. Claudia Black is in this game. Steve Blum is in this game, too, although that's not super surprising. I also want to give special praise to, and I'm trying to find his name because I just lost it. There it is, Jonathan Adams, who actually kind of nails it as Tyrael. Just does a really, really good job with that. But anyways. Yeah, Claudia Black is in this. Who does Steve Blum play? Zoltan Kuhl. And he does a very good job as Zoltan Kuhl, in my opinion. He is half of why Zoltan Kuhl is as cool as he is. But anyways. No, my great man. Claudia Black plays someone else. We'll get there. Yeah, Steve Blum plays Adria. How did you know? Oh no, we'll play Witch Doctor later.
This place reeks of the dead. The fallen star must be near.
So we're in the gameplay. We're fine. Takes an hour and a half. We're into the gameplay. Actually, probably pretty quick, all things considered. So first, let's talk about this. We actually already mentioned this back in D2 because they backported this into the remaster of D2. This is really great. As I already mentioned, this is a very, very awesome little feature that they added. It's V-Move. I actually used the button B, which kept screwing me up back in D2 because it's, whatever. Anyways, V-Move is I just want to move. It's like a straight movement order in an RTS, right? Don't attack, move. don't interact with the loot, don't interact with the enemy, and that is basically mandatory for D3 because there are several circumstances where you can become absolutely swarmed with enemies. And you just need to kind of move to a certain location. So I'm just holding down B right now, and it just follows the mouse regardless. And then this way you can move a lot more quickly, which is very helpful because a lot of classes and bosses and enemies in this game have terrain stuff. You know, I'm going to attack in a line, I'm going to attack in a wave, I'm going to attack behind, you get it. So being able to reposition in mid-combat is extremely important. So this is something I tend to do very frequently. This is just me tapping B right here. You can actually see it on the ground there. So, cool. Yes, Paranoid Android. So, B move. Already cool. So, HUD, it's pretty much the same general HUD as it was before. So, not really anything better than the previous HUDs, but it's still a good HUD, and it still gets some good HUD stuff. But now we got to talk about some other basic stuff. So, let's start with potions. Now, I'm probably the only person in the universe. No, a wizard uses arcane power because wizards channel chaotic power, which I used several times in the rewrite. Potions! Ignoring all questions. Potions! You'll notice that there's three things about that are immediately distinguishable. Thing number one, it has its own completely unique hotkey, in my case, Q. 2, it is a percentage heal. 3, it's a cooldown, but infinite. Now, Dakoita dislikes this. You actually mentioned this the other day, too. I'm curious why, because to me, this is a huge net positive. Like, this is probably too positive territory for me. I love what they did with potions. The fact that it's percentage-based means it will always be useful. The fact that it's a cooldown as opposed to having a currency thing is awesome because, goddamn, I absolutely hate the potion gameplay in D2, to put it as nicely as I possibly can. And number 3, the fact that it has its own unique hotkey, which of course you can rebind, means you just have a heal button, which you could put wherever. It is unlimited potions. Boop. You also can't use a potion when you're at full, as I just demonstrated. You cannot cut down the timer. However, there are other types of potions which... Hang on. Hang on. I know at least one of my characters has the Kool-Aid. Should be you. I guess I can just check in the profile. It's probably the easiest way to check. Oh, it doesn't say what potion I have equipped. Ah, okay, whatever. So, boop. Oh yeah, there's also, you don't waste an inventory on it. You don't waste anything on it, actually. Aha! There we go. So, these are the kind of potions you can notice. First thing, 30-second cooldown. It's the same cooldown. But, later on, you get other types of potions. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have plenty of types of potions. I'm not sure where I would have put them. Give me a second. Looks like I didn't hold on to any of them if I actually did get them. I know I've seen other potions. Hang on. I just miss it? Nope, looks like I just didn't hold on to them. That's whatever. I was going to show you other types, but the point is there are legendary potions. Let's just call it what it is. Oh, here we go. Duh, they're right in front of me. So, all of them still do the same thing. They restore 60% life. But that one increases my resistances for 5 seconds immediately after I do it. This one gives me, restores my resource if I do it below half health. This one makes it fear enemies within 12 yards for 4 seconds. This one increases life per kill for 5 seconds. This one increases my armor for 5 seconds. This one restores additional life over 5 seconds. And this one increases healing from all sources for 5 seconds. You get the idea. Now, I actually do agree with Dakoita. These should have probably been main gameplay. In fact, I don't remember when they added these, because these were not in at launch. But these were a cool idea that they didn't do as much as they probably should have with. So, that's whatever. I have a lot of this. I've also got several Ramaladni's gifts. Holy crap. Anyways, so potions, cool. They probably do, Blade 12. Switch. And one of these days we'll actually start playing, I swear, but I had to go show off potions. Okay, so yes, go. So potions. I'm sorry, I don't understand the question, Kemek. Alright, so we've got several features which are completely locked off. You can actually see a little lock symbol on them, so that's cool. We've also got the left click and the right click, which are clearly notated down there. Signature spell. Actually says right there, signature spells are free to cast. We've also got the ability to do white damage, which starts off by default on your right click. These will change very, very quickly. So some people dislike this. I don't not dislike this. Like, I don't have a strong opinion of this, but for all intents and purposes, melee doesn't exist, is the way I'm going to phrase that. Now, there are melee attacks. There are abilities that have, you know, melee range. But in general, this is your build right here, and we'll talk more about this as we develop it. So even as, like, a barbarian, you can run up and melee something, but you essentially never should, right? Like, you should never actually run up and melee white damage. White damage exists in this game, but you should never be using it. There is approximately the tiniest sliver of a period of time in which you should be using white damage. And that is only in the period of time in which you've just started off your character. Pretty much from like level 2 and onwards, you should stop using white damage. We got that. We got inventory to show that off. We do have the quest journal, which we'll show off more later. Achievements, I think that's everything for the moment. So let's talk about Paragon points really quick. So as you can see, I've got a couple. Paragon points. So I actually like the Paragon system. The Paragon system allows you to continue to level after you have leveled. Once you hit level 70, or whatever the level cap is at the time, you start getting Paragon levels. I have a couple. So let's ignore this tab for a second. At the offensive tab, you'll notice that there's a 0 of 50, a 0 of 50, a 0 of 50 over here on the right. You see that? That's because these cap at 50. So 5, 10, 15, 20. At 200 levels, you notice we have 164 to spend. You will have maxed out your attack speed, your cooldown reduction, your critical hit chance, your critical hit damage. You can also reset these instantly and for free at any point in time, because this game is super pro-respec. Defense, same thing. Life, armor, resist all, and life regen. Resist all used to be another one of those turbo stats, by the way. Life is, of course, percentage, which is cool. Armor is percentage, which is cool. Utility, area damage, which is exactly what it sounds like. They really want you to kill lots of things. Resource cost reduction, which is exactly what it sounds like too. Life per hit, and gold pickup radius, which you might think, who gives a damn about gold pickup radius? So here's the thing. Several abilities and set bonuses specifically do more X, whatever it is they do, based on your gold pickup radius. So you can have more damage or more area effect or affect more enemies based on how large your gold pickup radius. So it is actually a combat stat, not just something that increases how large your gold pickup. But it depends. It depends on your build. It depends on what abilities you're using. So all of this is turbo cool. But the reason I talked about these three first is because this one over here is the infinite one. So you can crank your movement speed and you can crank your maximum resource. It varies based on your class. But then you'll notice intelligence and vitality do not have a cap. That's because you can just keep putting stuff into them forever. And so the idea is you're supposed to max out these and then start just dumping everything into your primary stat, which in my case is intelligence and vitality, which is obvious. I have a lot to cover, forgive me. So hang on, I got a question there. Would I object if an MMO introduced NPCs which are indistinguishable from real players? I would probably object to that because that's impossible. That would be my answer to that. There's no way in hell. So Kemek is talking about what I want is mana potions. I don't think mana potions really should exist in a game like this, as weird as that probably sounds, because the overwhelming majority of gameplay design for each of the classes does not lend itself towards mana regen things, right? In other words, obviously I'm on a wizard right now, but let's pretend for a moment I'm playing a barbarian. A rage potion certainly has some validity to it, but effectively bypasses half of the class. Yeah, the entire idea behind why they have so many builder spenders in terms of class design is to prevent mana potions from even being a concept. Now, I'm going to go ahead and spend some of these here. Oh, yeah, you can also spend in one big bundle like this. You know what? Hang on. I changed my mind. Wait, nope. I changed my mind again, and I could just respec infinitely for free forever. Love the system. All right, so we're going to go ahead and leave these alone. In fact, actually, hang on. We're going to do movement speed. Then we're going to do nothing, nothing, and we'll go ahead and do that. There. We'll leave it like that. And we'll come back to that later. Okay, so that's Paragon levels, which I do like. I do think they could do more with Paragon levels, but I do like Paragon levels, and I do like what they did with them. So, Paragon levels, cool. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I mentioned very briefly earlier, if you're paying attention, that most of my Paragon levels I got in Seasonal, and I said that as a way to explain why my Paragon level was so low. So, the way it works is you will get your first Paragon level, like it's like another X bar, right? So, your first couple of Paragon levels will come very, very quickly. And then it'll slow down, and then it'll slow down, and you get it, right? It's another X bar, like I just said. What that means is to get from 670... What am I at? To get from 6 something... What? That doesn't actually tell me. 700, whatever the hell it is. No, I do not, Lilumless. To get from 700 to, like, 701 takes way more experience than it takes to get from 1 to 50. Make sense? What that means is because I keep doing seasonal characters, in a season, your Paragon levels is per game type. We talked about that earlier. So I keep getting low-level experience in my seasonal characters, and then only getting to like Paragon level 50 or 100 or whatever on the seasonal character. And then when the seasonal character gets baked in at the end of the season, what it does is it looks at the exact number of experience you got in Paragon experience, and it just adds that to your experience bar, which isn't worth as many levels. So my levels go up slowly. Make sense? Still get benefit of it. I still gain Paragon levels each time, but it's direct. Oh, pardon me, 657. That's my level. Okay.
This place reeks of the dead. The fallen star must be near.
All right. We talked about HUD. We talked about gear. We talked about attacks. We talked about the potions. I think we're actually ready to go ahead and do some stuff here. Are we on Master? We are. Okay, cool. So, obviously, this game is going to get shotgunned brickwork positives. Let's just get that out of the way. But as you can see, there's some visual storytelling going on immediately. We see 3 people dead from some kind of accident with a wagon. One of them is up and roaming around. Then we go down a little bit further. Then there's 2 people eating. And this is a good time as any to mention that the pop-up text, I forget the proper term for that, is much better in this than it is in like everything else. So first of all, I'll demonstrate it better in a second. But oh, here we go. Perfect. So, boom. So he's got a health bar. It shows his relative health. That's the health bar, just hovering over his head. But it also shows his exact health. He is down 7 health, 7 to 14. I cannot be the only person who really likes that they added this. So I can see exactly who's at what where. Right there. Boom. Love that. Now, if I decide to mouse over them, there's the enemy name, there's the enemy type. And any specific suffixes or abilities will be listed under there when we get to bosses and the like. It's also something that's a toggle, by the way. Yeah, you notice these enemies are just like, brains. Brains. Oh no. Brains. Yes, all of this is toggleable, Crazy. I feel like I just said that. This is here to get you used to how to attack and interact with enemies. Very tutorialized, but also completely optional. So hang on. Yes, Equalitas. Correct. The only thing D1 and 2 had was the thing that pops up at the top when you mouse over a specific enemy. At the moment, we are a wizard. Then we're going to do everything. So a bunch of corpses, already getting some visual storytelling. We already know the dead are rising if we pay attention to the cinematic. There's a lot of corpses. There's a lot of corpses. Oh my god, what is happening up here? As we can see, some of the corpses have actually reached the wall. We've got people on the palisade here.
My power grows.
So that's something I was showing off on purpose. You notice I didn't do anything to contribute to that fight, but I still got experience for it. That's because of the way the game calculates that sort of thing. It doesn't have any kind of tag mechanic. And can I just say, thank God. One of the biggest things I hate about games, especially MMOs, for years, is the way that it does tag. In D3, tagging isn't even a concept. If something dies, you gain credit for it. There are some extremes to this. Like, if you are in a different part of the world and your friend kills something, you will get experience for that. You will gain quest progress for that. And if you warp to them, you can actually get the loot off of the enemy that dropped. It is extraordinarily beneficial for co-op, specifically. I have so many positives to shotgun at co-op, and we'll come back to that. We'll talk about it later. What I want to talk about right now is visual storytelling. We're in the campaign. Lots of corpses. Some of them are on fire. We have a whole pit, which is flaming, and they have spikes, and there is blood all over the walls. These people have been on under siege by the damned for some time now. If you remember, during the intro, specifically the barbarian one, you heard him talk about how it's been 6 days. So 6 days has been, and that's, yeah, they've been dealing with this for a minute now. Welcome to Tristram, New Tristram. Funny little side thing, you actually can't go north. You actually can't go anywhere. You're a little pigeonholed during the intro. Probably because this is the tutorial. But you'll also notice that Nithrius is here. Thank you, Nithrius. If you want to put it towards 2 other things, please let me know. Yes, I did, Pika. Thank you very much. Pika for the bits. I did get your bits after I cut off stream. Your timing was interesting, but I did put them down for Splatoon 3. Yeah, I know, right? Maybe they should stop building around here. Hey, guys, this place is turbo cursed in a setting where curses and demons and angels are real things. Quit it. Okay, so... so a bunch of dead. We're already at the point where we're having a relatively good intro and some good visual storytelling. Excuse me. Okay, so... I want to gush about so many things. Yeah, we've got some classic Gothic vibes going on here. But the first thing you notice, so let's look at the mini-map. So as I mentioned earlier, I am actually quite fond of the mini-map. It's all filled out right now. Later on, we'll be filling it out as per the Diablo standard. However, it's a very... I don't know about you. I find it very easy and distinct because they did something very intelligent. This is actually another aspect of color distinction, which again... Oh, do they have colorblind options? Do they have Walker? Colorblind. That would be under video, I suppose. Looks like they do not actually have colorblind options. That's actually strange, because they've been pretty good about adding colorblind options to games, but looks like they don't. So, sucks to be us! Alright. So, thank you, Walker. Is that negative worthy? No. It is not positive worthy. That's how that works. So Walker... Oh, I got 2 subs in the middle of that, so that's going towards Tinykin, Kingdom Hearts Block, and FF7R1. And then we got Ciela, which is putting it towards Crazy Norse's Decision. And Nithrius is also putting it towards Dragon Age Block and the FF Pixel Remasters. You got it. See you around, Rum and Cure. Hope to see you in the VODs. It's actually funny you mentioned that, Crazy Norse. It has been argued, and speaking of someone who's dug way too deep into the lore of the Diablo series, that the equivalent of the bubonic plague is 3 things, Crazy Norse. 3 things. The equivalent of the bubonic plague, you know, the total destruction of the noble class, and how that completely upended a lot of Europe's societal structure, is the equivalent of what happened after D2. That so many people died and so many people suffered from the catastrophic, complete destruction of the primary, most powerful nation in the world, which was Kyrgyzstan, the Kurast, has had the same reaction, and so that people are actually doing better because of the massive Etch-a-Sketch. And then D3 happens because nothing good can happen in this setting. Okay, so forgive me. We've got so many things to discuss. Okay. What was I just talking about? Minimap. Minimap. Dual colors. Dual color tones. We've got a kind of a darkish outline, or not outline, excuse me, color for the area we can explore, and a little light outline around it. I do like that. I do like the fact that it's just a visual distinction thing. In D1 and D2, the minimap was rendered based on the world, right? I mean, that's still true here, but what I mean by that is it would just plonk down like a vague tree-looking thing where the edge was, but it wouldn't actually render an edge. Having that actual distinct light color there helps to see very quickly and efficiently where you've been and where you haven't, which, if you remember, was a problem we had in a couple of areas in D2, most notably Act 3 being the worst one about that. So, good minimap. Cool. It also has interactables on the minimap. So that's neat. We can actually mouse over stuff on the minimap. There's the captain, there's the blacksmith. You get the general idea. So quests show up on there. As we'll show off later, and we will show it off at some point or another, certain loot, that is to say specifically legendaries and set items, will also show up on the minimap. And it's transparent. As you can see, we can actually see through it. We've also got a conversation, which is visible, and the stash, and just all sorts of other stuff. So this is... Oh yeah, sorry. Excuse me. I actually forgot about this, Takoida. Thank you. There's also the ability to just see the map, which you can just see. And for the first time in the franchise, you can actually look around on the map. And then you can just recenter on yourself like that. So, good map, good mini-map. I've seen better. Metroid Dread is still the golden standard for minimap design, but that's good. I know, Jay Palmer. By the way, we also have the quote-unquote map, which we can't even zoom out properly here. But there's... this is stylized, but surprisingly informative. What you're seeing right here is actually the path that Act 1 will go through. Yes, this is the waypoint map. So we start... Oh, where the hell are we, actually? We start over here, and then we go up here, and you can't see my mouse, but you get the idea. Or we can, of course, zoom in, and this is the actual zonal map. The third level is when you can switch between acts, which we can't do yet because we're still in Act 1. Are those on the list, Crazy Norse? I feel like they are. But I don't remember. Okay. Map design. Mini-map design. Level. So we just leveled. So as we can see in chat, we can see exactly what we got. We got 1 stat in everything that we don't care about, 2 stats in health, which is normal, 3 stats in our primary stat, intelligence. Now, unlike a lot of games, there actually is a degree of relevance in your vertical level in this game because so much is predicated upon your strength, dexterity, intelligence, and vitality. Primarily your intelligence and your vitality, or that is to say your primary stat and your health. Those don't just affect your mana pool and your health pool. In fact, I can show you what those affect because I can hit this button. So, for example, let's look at intelligence. Intelligence increases all damage I do by 13% because I have an int of 13, and increases all resistances by 1.3. Vitality increases life, which also, actually, I swear it increases something else, but whatever. Dexterity gives them bonus damage and increases your armor. Strength also increases your armor and gives them bonus damage. We also see your relative damage. This is, and it's important to note this, your damage value is actually an estimate. That's not necessarily accurate. I have played builds that have a damage value of like 10,000, but will absolutely outdamage people who have a damage value of 1,000,000. It depends, but this is an estimate of your relative damage output, your toughness, and your recovery. It actually says what they're based off of right there. Damage is based off weapons, attributes, attack speed, critical hit, passive skills, and dual-wielding attack speed increase. Toughness is based off of maximum life, armor, dodge chance, average resistances, missile, melee, and elite damage reduction. Recovery is based off of toughness, life per second, life per hit, life per kill, life per resource cost, lifesteal, and health globe healing bonus. All of these three stats, these are for at a glance. These three stats are for at a glance, and they're not supposed to be taken super seriously when you get to the high-end stuff. When you start getting into builds and gear and really, actually focusing in on the type of class you want to play, ignore those three things forever. But what they're there for is for people who are just generally playing the game and want to see, all right, well, what's this piece of item going to do for me? Or what's my relative damage and toughness? It's a generalized version to make you feel, oh, this is how strong I am. It's extremely useful for people who don't know what they're doing or just playing normally, who don't want to actually go into the nitty-gritty. Then we've got the actual specific stats, which is this stuff over here. This is exactly what it sounds like. This is all the nitty-gritty stuff. This is your damage increased by int, damage increased by skills, bonus damage to elites, attack per second, attack speed increase. This is your stats. This is, I don't know if it's literally all your stats, but it's very close to being all of the stats that exist in the game that you can have. What your thorns is, what your reduction is per missiles, what your life per kill is, what your arcane regeneration is per crit, your gold find, you'll notice we're at 200%. Your movement speed, your bonus experience per kill, what you've got in your Khanais. This is your actual stat sheet right here. And as you can see, as you mouse over, it gives you some specifics on what, where, and why. Okay. So all that's cool. Now we've got the fact that we leveled, and that gave us this. New. So now we have this ability. Ray of Frost. Notice that it's color-coded. Blue. Blue, blue. That is frost damage. This one is our color-coded as well. That is arcane damage, and it will say it there. There's several damage types. It will always both say, and because it literally says cold right there, but it'll also have a visual indicator of color. To try and demonstrate that. There's lightning, for example. You can see it right there. And it looks like that's all I got at the moment. But as you can see, there are quite a few of these. And, here we go. So there's frost. There we go. There's some fire damage for you, for those of you who are wondering about that. Don't worry, we've definitely got fire damage. And, okay. So, skills, this screen is most of the good of this game, in my opinion, which is funny, because I know a lot of people disagree with me about that. Left mouse, right mouse, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you have elective set up, you can set that up however. If you don't, defensive, whatever this is, will always be on your 1. This will always be 2. This will always be 3. This will always be 4. If you have elective mode, you can put wherever, whatever, including with your mouses, which I would consider mandatory. Make sure you do that. You get talents at 10, 20, 30, and 70. Where do I even begin? So these are signature spells. It even says right there they're free to cast. It says exactly what it does. You'll notice this. So this is important. Launching a missile of magic energy, dealing 230% weapon damage as arcane. This is another thing they borrowed from WoW. So the way this works is almost every bit of damage you can do with this game is based off of your weapon damage, and your weapon damage is determined by a bunch of other stuff. And then is variable multiplied by your int, or your strength, or your increase to frost damage, or whatever it is you have, right? But weapon damage is the baseline. So in our case, we have a weapon damage of 2 to 3. It's roughly 3.0 damage per second. It's 1.2 attacks per second. It requires level 1. There's its salvo. There's durability. You get it. So abilities pretty much, and there are very few exceptions to this, pretty much always deal damage based on weapon damage. That's why you're always going to see that weapon damage thing, as you can see right here. Ray of Frost damage is increased by 405% weapon damage every second, up to a maximum of 1240% weapon damage as cold. Weapon damage. All kinds of weapon damage. It's always about weapon damage, so you always have to be thinking about your weapon when it comes to your damage output. Obviously, the rest of your gear matters, but that's the baseline, okay? So, God, where do I even begin with this? As you can see, we just got a new ability because we just hit level 2. I need water. So that's pretty much exactly what it does. Costs 16 arcane power. Projects a beam of ice that blasts enemies within 5 yards of the first enemy hit for 430% damage. And it does cold damage. It slows their movement by 60% for 3 seconds. Once again, I have done lots of voice acting. Thank you, Friscoborn. You can hear me over in the Final Fantasy IX Theater if you want to hear me voice act. Voice like 30 years. Or 30 characters there. So, once again, color distinction. Green. Green, green, green. I do love the fact that it makes it very clear. Because, again, a lot of games get this wrong. If that was all white, that would be harder to parse. The fact that the special stuff is differently colored is awesome. There's plenty of examples of that, as I can just kind of demonstrate here, just going down the line. The stuff that matters is usually in green. Now, having said all that, of course, that there's no that doesn't help people with color blindness. I got nothing. We already talked about that. But I mentioned that because it's not just a visual distinction thing. That's actually a programming thing. The reason the stuff in green is because that stuff is not static. Let me explain what I mean by that. If you're looking at that tooltip right there, here, we'll actually do an easier one. We'll make this nice and easy. So Ray of Frost costs that much power. It hits this range. It does this much damage. It slows by this much for this many seconds. But if you were to actually look at the code, what you would see is variable arcane power. Projects a beam of frozen ice that blasts enemies within variable yards to the first enemy hit for variable weapon damage. And you get it, right? The white text is something that someone wrote manually. The green text is actually a string, and that's pulling from whatever it currently is. So that can actually change based on your abilities, your talents, your gear, etc. So that is the variable, and that is something that can be dynamically adjusted to give you a better idea of how exactly your abilities work at a given moment in time. Again, this is something they pull straight from WoW, and for good reason. Okay, so, all right, top 10 dramatically narrated lists. List number 1, worst tea ever made. Anyways. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for a second. Because now we have a quest! Of course it's an exclamation mark, as we already talked about. Diablo 2 effectively started that concept, and then Warcraft 3 took it and ran with it, and then WoW took it and ran with it. Now everybody uses exclamation marks, so of course there's an exclamation mark. But even if you, for whatever reason, have never played a video game in the last 10 years, he's the only one you can interact with. You notice they designed this very specifically. There is nowhere else to go, and there's nothing else to click. The only way to progress is to target him, and if you mouse over him, you can see he's got an outline, and the icon, you can't see it, of course, changes to be a chat bubble. So, pretty much no matter how you're looking, this is actually still tutorialized, even if you've never played a video game before, and if you don't even speak the language, and that's important. We've talked about that before.
Prophecy sent me in search of the star that fell on this land.
It fell on the old cathedral. There was only one survivor, Leah. You should speak with her.
Captain Rumford, more dead are coming.
We can't open the gates until we drive them back.
So our first little quest here, if you can call it that. We also have this ability now. So this is a good time to mention that viscerality is very high in this game. Also new enemy type. So this is how this works. It's just point and shoot. You'll also notice we've already started to see health globes too.
Anyone fight like that before? Guards, open the gates. You'll find Leah at the Slaughtered Calf Inn.
And also you can do it, so if you hold down shift to do it without moving. In some cases you don't even have to hold down shift, you can just do it. So as you can see, they're burning the corpses because the corpses get back up. We've already seen that demonstrated. Health globes. Why would anyone hate the health globes?
I came here to study the fall of Old Tristram. This is closer to the town's history than I want to be.
Yeah, is this game worthwhile? It is my job to be as thorough as possible. We're going to be here about a week. If at the end of the week you have not been convinced one way or the other, well, then I have not done my job properly.
The dead have been a bane on our existence since
on
that
with
cursed fire fell. We have to burn them, just to make sure they don't rise from the grave.
Hang on. Our chat's a little bit weird. I'm not sure why. Hang on. Oh, I see why. All right, let's get rid of that. That should help a little bit. Let's try that again.
The dead have been a bane
Nope, it's still in the way.
since that cursed
It would be too video gamey. Damn them! How dare they make a video game that's video gamey? I will never forgive them for that. Ah, that's why. Okay, yep, we're cool. We're just gonna leave that at that for the moment.
Zakarum has fallen to disgrace. What faith can save us now? It is the end of the world. Can't you see that? Death may be upon us all soon, but I shall do what I can to ease your pain.
I worked my hands to the bone to bring you these fine goods.
Well, I only have 3 billion gold. So, vendors tend to have... Oh, yeah, VA is going to get lots of positives. Holy crap. Just so many positives. That's going to be a how many. So, yeah, we've got weapons, armor, repair, and buyback. They added a buyback thing. This will be more important later, but most of the vendor stuff is not going to be worth a damn. Most of the vendor stuff is more there for filling out a hole in your pre-existing gear while you're leveling. Once you get to a certain point, vendors will stop being relevant. However, so I just want to show over once again how incredible the mouse over is. So as you can see, we get all of the infos, not only just the specifics. In fact, you can actually see that is an arcane damage axe, which does arcane damage. Also gives more experience per kill, but it also shows you the stat changes. That's the thing I talked about earlier. It will only show you damage, toughness, and recovery, which is a very, very vague kind of And we'll talk more about crafting in a minute. So, real quick thing. Some people like this, some people hate this, but it will show you whether or not you have dealt, like whether you've touched an item or not in your inventory. You probably can't tell, but here, I'm going to mouse over it. And now you notice the outline goes away. That's specifically there for when you're running around and looting, because you can see which items you've actually looked at and which items you have not. Obviously, this is item we have not looked at. We can see it's right there. We're going to go just equip it really quick. And, yeah, our damage has gone up, because now we do more damage, which, of course, increases the weapon damage of those abilities, as we've already talked about. Whew, okay. Also, all the Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 streams are currently available on YouTube. All of them have already been uploaded to the VODs. If anybody wants to look at those and say whether or not they think D1 or D2 is actually worthwhile. Ignore the Book of Cain for a second.
I promised Marco I'd protect him, and now he's dead.
Ignore the completely fleshed out blacksmith. That's just ignore that for a moment. Ignore that for a moment.
Nothing ever seems to change in New Tristram, does it?
What do you mean?
There's always some threat of the risen dead or foul evil descending on the town, isn't there?
Don't you dare lift a finger to help our mayor fix his wagon. My brother died defending this town, while that bloated coward tried to run away.
Can you move this thing? I need to get by.
How dare you speak to me like that? I'm the mayor of this town.
Why are you trying to leave?
Are you mad? This town is doomed. Anyone with a grain of sense should be trying to get out. Will you help me or not?
I am not in the habit of helping cowards.
And that's PvP, which we're going to completely ignore. So, you knew it was coming. But it's not going to happen right now. We'll gush about the brickwork later when we have access to the whole town.
For many years, villagers were too afraid to settle near the ruins of the cursed town Tristram. But as time went by, adventurers arrived to loot the old cathedral, and their business was profitable enough that new Tristram sprang up to accommodate them. Fewer travelers visit now, though, and the town is mostly populated by craftsmen and farmers.
A couple things about that. First of all, yeah, that's what I thought. Where is it? I know it's there. I just don't remember where it is. Ah, there it is. So, whatever you picked up last is automatically right there. You can see it's written out in case you happen to, not hear it or understand it. You can hit listen to it again.
For many years, villagers were too afraid.
And you can see a list of all of the lore tidbits you've gotten, including sorting by category or most recent. This is a very good quest lore log. And as Taqueta so helpfully pointed out, it will continue playing while you're playing the game. So if you get them out in the field while you're killing stuff, you can continually hear the lore without having to pause and go into the menu. All right, give me a moment.
Tristram used to be such a wonderful place to live. My family has been here since the town grew out of the ruins of old Tristram. But now, it's horrible. The loved ones we've buried and grieved over now threaten our lives.
Oh yeah, sorry. I know we've been rapid firing stuff a little bit, and we'll probably continue to, but I'm just gonna switch to numbers. Is that okay? Because it's gonna be a lot easier to keep track if I just start putting numbers here. As you can see, we're already a little bit high on the gameplay score. Yeah.
Have you come to help us? The other adventurers who came through here didn't look so deadly.
I don't care what anyone says. That thing that fell from the sky was no rock. A rock doesn't cause the dead to leave their graves.
Y'all okay over here? No, I'm sure they're fine.
Are you Leah? Rumford said you survived the fallen star.
I did, but it blasted my uncle Deckard Cain into the depths of the old cathedral. I tried to search for him, but the dead were already rising. I came back here to rally the militia, but...
Watch out! The wounded are turning!
Oh, crap!
This is killing business.
The dead will overwhelm us all, unless something is done.
I will make certain that doesn't happen. Your town is safe.
Thank you. You should speak with Captain Rumford at the gate. He can tell you what to do.
Welcome to the Slaughtered Caffeine. Bring me whatever treasures you have no use for. I'll give you a bit of coin to save up for your casket.
Thanks. I shouldn't have to mention that the Doodad game is on point. Because, I mean, look at this. Look at this screen for a second. Really take it in. Like, we've got half-melted candles. We've got books all over the place. We've got little chests. We've got a pot. We've got the barrel, which is actually containing the tongs, which is used for the fire. The fire itself has actually got log kind of halfway spilling out of it. We've got spare beds and spare blankets. We've got letters next to a little writing kit thing. Like, just, oh my god. It's a little bonkers, actually, how good this is. However, I would agree, it's probably not overall as good as the previous game, but it is very manually crafted, and, well, there's going to be a whole lot of good stuff in this, so probably going to have a whole lot of brickwork and doodad positive. That's all I'm saying.
We've been under siege for 6 days now. Uncle Deckard is still missing. Captain Rumford and the others are losing hope. I tell them not to lose faith, but if help doesn't arrive soon...
16 militiamen went out. Only Rumford came back. How could that help us?
We never should have built on this cursed ground. Maybe Cain was right. Even in death, Diablo torments us.
Yeah. Here's Cain's house. A lot more Spartan, but there's a reason for that. Which is funny, because he's just got scrolls everywhere. Look at this! Dude, clean up after yourself. Oh my god. He's got a washroom. Right next to the bed. See, I would not put the place where I take a bath right next to my bed, personally. I don't know, maybe that's just me. He has a system. I'm sure he can find all of his notes just fine. He probably needs to put away his freaking rolls. Just leaving bread out there. That's how you get ants.
We have come at last to Tristram's old cathedral. This is where Diablo, Lord of Terror, first corrupted mankind. This is where I may finally find the answers I seek. Leah worries after my safety, but I believe information vital to defeating the last lords of the burning hells can be found here.
What can I do to help you fight the risen dead?
I admire your courage, but Captain Dalton and the militia were slaughtered by those things. Only I survived.
Thanks for the warning, but I won't be dying today.
Well, I have seen you fight. Strike at the wretched mothers and their queen. They're the ones vomiting out these horrors.
They're attacking the barricades!
That's one of the wretched mothers. There are more of them in the ruins down the road.
I, Deckard Cain, have spent many years traveling and writing about the strange creatures in our world, but the sight of the wretched mothers still haunts me. They are the remnants of Queen Asilla's slaughtered handmaidens who were twisted by foul magic. Now they feast upon cadavers and regurgitate them as newly formed, risen dead.
Cute. So we just got a new signature spell. These are, of course, free. It's a little random, as lightning tends to be, keeping the overall theme of lightning there. Could do some fun stuff, though. Oh, I know exactly how close it is. So, the actual... We're going to the original Trisha, let's just put it that way. Yeah, you can also put it on other buttons, so we can have that, so that's cool. But the real reason I'm pausing is... That's how you can see when an item has dropped. I believe this is actually a toggle, but you can just look over and see, hey. So. Notice that it's just ID'd. The overwhelming, yes, Ross. Nobody ever believes me. Other than legendaries and set pieces, I think that's it. Everything's already automatically ID'd. You just pick it up and you know what it is. It also has the icons on the field, like that, so you can tell what it is at a glance. You can tell it's a belt, you can tell it's magic. There is white and gray. It has a purpose, which is ironically completely useless if you're just doing a normal playthrough, and absolutely mandatory if you're going to go into any of the endgame stuff. We'll talk about that later. It's part of the crafting. So, go ahead and equip that. Oh yeah, also here's our equipment slots. It's pretty much the same as D2. In fact, I think the only addition is the bracer slot. No, I'm wrong. Leggings and bracers are the two new. Nope, I'm still wrong. Shoulders, leggings, braces. I think that's it. Oh, they would be a joke. You kidding me, Traxxia? Watch me kill thousands upon thousands of demon lords and then tell me about how powerful we can be in this setting.
I will never forget the first time I saw these horrors shambling out of the misty woods. Our loved ones, buried long ago, rose from their graves and began to attack the living. However, the risen dead were only the beginning.
So as you can see their abilities right there. In this case, they only have one ability because this is relatively low difficulty. That is Teleporter. This is our first champion pack. Pretty much straight out of D2. Same general benefit, too. And yeah, we've actually reached our first combat area. Holy crap. Kill the final one. We get another blue. Blue. Yep. Pacing. This game has a lot of pacing. Some people dislike it. I am not one of those people. We'll talk more about that as we go as well. I thought so, Von Falkenstein. Notice that it's actually a bonus objective to kill the Wretched Mothers. We don't actually have to kill them. You'll also notice they're showing up on the minimap. You see her right there. She's got the outline, so you know she's a quest mob. And she shows up on the minimap, and I believe... Yep, she shows up on the map too. As a reminder, non-financial contributions can only be put towards one thing, Dream Whisperer. So if you want to put that towards one thing, please let me know. So we're already not seeing a little side dungeon. So let's talk about randomness, shall we? And that randomness is Dream Whisperer. Why are you so random? Thank you, as always, for being part of the show, Dream Whisperer. I'll put that towards StarCraft. Ooh. Legs. Twin stick shooter types? Oh, twin stick shooter ARPGs. Okay. Let's just say, I think plenty of twin stick shooters. In fact, I just beat one last night, which is Shoot His Blood and Teeth. Random. So D1 was incredibly random. It was so random that it was arguably a little bit too random, because you could have all kinds of things, and they didn't really need to cohese to logic. We showed that off going through D1. D2, still random, not as random. There were still puzzle pieces in D2, but you could still have all kinds of different configurations for how the zones are going to look. D3 is much less random. Of the many, many complaints I've heard about D3, this is the one that I understand the most. I don't mind it personally, and I'm not going to give it a negative, but I do think that it's such a variance from the previous games that it could be taking some getting used to, because like this area we're walking through right now will pretty much always be the same. There are specific zones which tend to look a little bit different in terms of how you progress through them or what things can be where. But the most randomness in D3 is what stuff spawns. So whether or not, like this dungeon right here, mini dungeon, micro dungeon, whatever you want to call that, is here, that's random. Whether or not you get a specific loot journal or whether you fight a certain type of enemy, that's the kind of stuff that tends to be randomized as you're going through D3. This can be very frustrating if you're trying to fill out achievements like get all the loot drops in a specific spot, because it doesn't always spawn. I have no idea, Friscoborn. Fortunately, I'm not sufficiently familiar with the specific code and design of BOE to be able to answer such a question. You gotta have destructibles. I mean, what is life without destructibles? Nobody should be eating those things anyways, let's be honest with ourselves. Yeah, we're not going to actually talk about rifts and grifts until we get there, but rifts and grifts are much more random, and it's one of the things that they did right with the adventure mode. But anyways. Okay, so... Oh yeah. Destroying destructibles also gives you experience and can be a part of certain builds. There are certain abilities or certain items which give you boosts or bonuses depending on how much stuff you have destroyed. So that's actually a thing. What do I put this under? Let's put this under core mechanics. No. I don't know what to put this under. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out later. A slice of life ARPG. All right. It's time to cook a sandwich for lunch. Oh, God, no. Okay, chop. Bread. Okay, I did it. Da-da-da-da. We're not on a seasonal character yet, no. Yeah, and the bread is just like the whole time. I mean, I play that too, admittedly. Like, it's this big... And it's a whole thing, right? I will make the greatest sandwich in the world! But it's not actually, like, leaning into it ridiculous-wise. It's just this one dude who's weird. I feel like we just said that about Wolkenstein. Am I delayed today? Are we having more chat delay than usual? Because that happens periodically. It's a Wednesday, so we should be fine, but who knows with Twitch. What am I looking for? Now, see, that sounds like a mental health simulator. Like, imagine showing up and being like, I'm a terrible person. I'll never amount to anything. My mother was right about me. And you have to, like, fight your own negative thoughts as you're going through it. I don't know. Okay, no, I'm not. Okay. Chests are pretty obvious. There's a lot of visual distinction stuff. Or there's just visual distinctions there. The highest grift I've ever done? Oh, I don't know. I think I can actually check. But the only way to check is to leave the game, and I don't care that much, Cubic Skull. So, Ma is going to be my answer to that. There's the speed bonus that was just mentioned. 3 times. 4 times now. Quick, everyone mention the speed bonus. We need to make sure everyone knows about the speed bonus. Also, you have a visual effect when you have a speed bonus, just to make sure you know it's there. Also, when you ding, you actually do some damage around you. Like, that actually causes effect. Which you might think, what's the point of that? Well, it matters a lot more when you start getting Paragon levels. It's just a neat little bonus when you're leveling. But at Paragon levels, well... So we've had our first champion pack. There's our first boss. Okay, and that is a Vortex. Still only 1 suffix. Still only on, you know, relatively easy stuff. Might actually have some issues here. Just back off for a second. Ooh, yep. This is going to be interesting. Be a little careful. No, I have not, Cubic. Whoa. Yeah, yanking can completely screw with you. That's just why I'm being a little cautious here. So, health orbs. I don't know why people dislike health orbs. Health orbs are exactly what they sound like. Certain enemies, under certain circumstance, have a chance to spawn a health orb. You run over it, you are healed. That's a health orb. Not much else to add to that, really. There are a lot of builds and styles and approaches and all kinds of stuff in terms of gear, in terms of ability, that enable you to increase the amount of health orbs, or increase what you get from health orbs, or to give you resources when you get health orbs, or to give you more damage boost when you get health orbs. You get it. What difficulty should you run through? That's a good question. So I'm on Master right now. It's worth that. So this is actually really important. So we already talked about how the difficulty options are awesome. Let's talk about how you can change the difficulty on the fly. Now, here's the deal. You can only lower it. But you can. So here's my piece of advice, and I always give this advice. Always start as high as you feel comfortable with. And if you have issues, then you can lower it. But you can literally lower it like that in the middle of a fight. If you were currently fighting a boss who is kicking your ass, and you're having issues, you can lower the difficulty right there in the middle of the fight, and that is such an awesome feature. I do kind of wish you could raise the difficulty on the fly too, because as is the only way to raise the difficulty is to pop out and pop in. But that is still an awesome option. IMO. What does that affect in the flight? Everything. It affects everything that the difficulty currently affects, which is the experience gain, the... hang on. So it's the experience gain, the gold gain, certain types of items that can drop, certain types of... I guess items covers it all. There's three categories of item drops that are affected by that. And then it also changes the boss's health and the boss's damage. And I think it also fiddles with some resistances on the side, too. Probably Von Falkenstein. And I kind of get it, but I stand by my overall opinion that that would be another positive if they let you raise it on the fly, too. Whatever. I do get it. I do get it. It's just, that'd be neat. What they probably could have done in order to limit that more is you can lower it under any circumstances, like you can now, right? Like the currently design, it works. But what I would have done is I would have made it so you can raise it as long as you're in a safe area, right? In other words, like right now, I could not raise the difficulty. But if I was to go back to town and everyone in the map was back in a safe area, that's easy to track. So everyone's in a safe area, crank up the difficulty, then we could go in with the higher difficulty. I know that's functionally the same as how it currently is. It just removes some of the button presses, and it doesn't involve resetting the world. By the way, I do like how the grass kind of goes whoosh, 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 because we're walking through it here. Anyways. Lovely visuals. Lovely brickwork. Why is everybody dead over here? Ah, well, it's not a big deal. We should probably look at our abilities, though. So, before we level again. So, okay.
They started to eat us while we slept. They are everywhere. Run! Save yourself!
Nah, it's cool. I got this. You should get back to town, though. I do not know, Maz. So, hang on. Go away. Let me talk about something that I personally love, that I've heard several other people dislike. Yeah, D3 is a very lighthearted game. You can see they had a pig thing, and it just... I've got so much to talk about. Okay. Let's talk about levels. There are no dead levels in Diablo 3. There's not a single level where you don't gain something. And I like that, because something that WoW had a problem with for a long time doesn't anymore. And a lot of RPGs have problems with are dead levels. Dead levels are exactly what they sound like. It's a level where you gain, like, health up, or maybe a stat up, and that's it. Like, that's what you gain. Yay. And that's all. And I hate dead levels. They're boring, they're bland, and they're padding. They're padding to make you feel like you're strong. D&D is a good example of a game. You know, Dungeons & Dragons is an example of a game that has dead levels. Even in 5th edition, which has pared down that problem substantially, there's still levels where what you get is more health, because you roll your health, and that's it. Back in 3rd edition, that was actually even worse. Terrible stuff. So, I like that there's no dead levels. But the relevance, and a lot of people don't like this part, is that means that every level, you need to go ahead and pull up this bar here and see what you're looking at. So it's like, okay. What did we gain? It's okay. There's a new indicator to show the new stuff. So obviously we got Frost Nova, but we've actually already been using that. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a 2-second freeze. Stay there. Then we've got Arcane Orb. I notice this costs a bit more than the Frost, but it's not a maintained, because instead it's more like a grenade. It looks like that. Have I mentioned viscerality? Because there's a lot of viscerality in this game. There's also no hell levels, but that's unrelated. A game like this shouldn't have any hell levels. Which is funny, because D2 absolutely has hell levels. Hey! What do we got? What do we got?
Where's all the treasure? The fiends didn't take it, did they?
Look, the chests are open! You bastard! Give me my treasure! Give me my treasure. Oh, you got some health, don't you? We're gonna be careful about you. We're actually gonna scooch around the corner here really quick. We're gonna swap this out for this. Oh, okay, hang on. We're in combat. Never mind. That's cool. That's cool. We got this. We got this.
Need more arcane power.
Alright. Just while we're here. Oh yeah, I should pull out my pet. Let's see. So for this, we'll use, I don't know, a battle cruiser. That sounds like a good idea. We'll put on the Illidan wings because Terra requested that. There we go. Alright, let's go. Listen, just because I have a Terran battlecruiser flying around with me. There's our checkpoint, by the way. There's a lot of checkpoints in this game. The checkpoint game is real.
Diablo himself once walked this place.
So here's Old Tristram. Somebody was asking how far away it is. Well, we're there. Actually, we used the female sorceress for the rewrite. Pretty much for Li Ming specifically. So here's where, what was his name? Griswold. Here's where Griswold was. Of course, he has a weapon rack. Gotta have the nods to D1. It wouldn't be a D game if there weren't nods to D1. Here's where What's-His-Face's little inn was. Over here was the healer. You notice the format is... not the format, wrong word. The, ooh, okay, that's an interesting one. Layout is pretty much identical. Someone mentioned they liked the male voice actor better. That's why I went with male wizard. We're gonna delete him anyway, so. Don't me. That's knockback, by the way. All of the minions have knockback too. Push through this. Deal with your minions in a minute.
I'm healed.
Yeah. So as I was saying, poor Tristram. Okay, I'm sure Wirt's okay. I don't see any sign of Wirt. Right about him. I'm sure he's fine. He always lands on his feet. Put. This is Plagued. Plagued can be one of the meaner ones. What they do is they drop green globs on the ground, and those green globs stay there until they die. Once they die, all the globs go away.
I didn't think I could get any better.
Alright, Perfect. So, let's enjoy the town for a moment more. So yes, this is the old cage that was containing Cain. I can talk. Aw. Moo moo moo. Moo. Let's talk about this first. So, you're probably thinking, this is a cool screen and all, but it sucks and I hate it. Well, allow me to introduce you to the concept of runes. Runes is, in my opinion, one of the best ideas Diablo 3 had. Like, I mean, it has a lot of great ideas, as the gameplay score is showcasing. But runes... So, Magic Missile, right? Let's equip that really quick. This is what Magic Missile is. It's pretty basic. It's an arcane shot. It's basically your fire bolt, except it's an arcane bolt, because a lot of arcane theming with the wizard. So, that's neat. Then, we could turn it into a charged blast, or a glacial spike, or we can make it AoE, or we can make it home in on something, or we can turn it into fire. The rune system is really good. You can also do no runes, if for whatever reason you want to. And it'll tell you exactly what it changes it to, and it'll show you what it is, so that tooltip will change based on what you've changed it to. So now we have Charged Blast with it, which means... I don't think I can actually demonstrate this right now. But it increases the weapon damage from 230% to 325%. So that's just a straight stat upgrade. But like I said, later on it will change what they do and how they do. This is approximately half of what your build is. As I showed off earlier, when it came to the profile thing, this is one of the reasons why it's so helpful to be able to see what other players are doing with regards to their abilities, and more importantly, their runes, because a lot of these runes coincide or work with each other. And almost all of these change the appearance. That's also true, which is part of the all-important viscerality. Might actually have to turn the diff down soon. We're starting to run into a bit of a health issue. But yes, all of the optional dungeons which can pop up are one room large. Later on, optional dungeons become a lot larger than just one room, trust me. For the most part, these are little bite-sized micro-dungeons, like I mentioned earlier. Probably not, Crazy Norse. Notice that enemy now spawned a crawling Corso, which I'm only pointing out because as of this point in time, we've already seen two different types of enemy types in terms of how they operate, regardless of visual appearance. And we're like 5 minutes into the game. Ooh, our first... Oh, never mind. That's a Veiled Crystal. So what do we got? We could wield a bow. Oh yeah, the Act 5 optional micro-dungeons are amazing. And frankly, where a lot of the good story is, too, in Act 5. So, we do not have Temportal yet. But we do have this. Now, these are waypoints. You're probably thinking, well, what's so different about waypoints from D3 to D2? Everything. Placement is the most obvious thing. But, God, I love the way they do waypoints in the system so much. I can't properly demonstrate all of this right now. But even at a glance, that's how that works. And the thing is, we'll come back to that. We'll talk about waypoints later. Let's talk about tutorial, because we're still in the intro, if you're paying attention. In fact, I'm pretty sure we'll be in the intro for a hot minute. So, we have a completely linear... Here, I'll show you it. We have a completely linear path. There's the town. Goes up here, winds around, Old Tristram, nostalgia, nostalgia. You have to go back. You cannot go anywhere else. It spawns some micro-dungeons on the way to get you used to loot, and get you a little bit of extra flavor lore, and some extra gear and or experience, if you care about it. If you don't, you just rush over here. You have optional objectives on the way. I should write that down while we're thinking about it. Optional objectives. Optional objectives on the way to get some extra stuff, which you don't have to do, of course. You get here. You have to kill a specific name. She's the handmaiden of the queen. Implication, implication. And then it's like, go back to town. Talk to Rumford. Now, we could actually walk all the way back, but as you can see, the game clearly wants us to do something rather specific there. So it's like, okay, fine. And it's this nice, big, glowing thing. So it's obvious on the minimap, it's obvious on the map, and it's obvious there. So then you are inclined to go click it, and it's like, hey, and then New Tristram is highlighted and glowing down here, so we know that's the thing. This is all trying to get you the idea of how the waypoint system works without having a big, giant chunk of text pop up and saying, what you can do is you can hit the... You don't need any of that. It's just ways to visually indicate tutorialization. Still good design. So we're going to warp back. We're going to walk over here. Because one of the other awesome things about waypoints is I can just do this from the map. I can just do this. I do not have to be on a waypoint. Now, if I interact with a waypoint, it's instant. See? And if I do it from town, it's instant. But if I'm out in the field and I feel like warping, then I can. For free. Infinitely and forever. The only detriment, and I agree with this, is that you can be interrupted. So if you're in the middle of fighting something, you better find a safe spot or get lucky in order to be able to warp out. But you can just warp infinitely forever for free wherever you've already interacted with. This is probably the single best waypoint system I have ever seen in a video game. And we aren't even into the other aspect of it, which is really good too, which we'll get to later. Like, I'm not actually sure it's possible to do a waypoint system better than this. Fast travel, sure. But, Okay, so... Oh yeah, do you notice there's an indicator when there's new dialogue to listen to? That's cool, too. Uh, 31. When I finish Act 2? I have no idea, Triaxia.
For a long time, Uncle Deckard avoided coming back to this place.
Yeah.
There were a lot of ghosts here for him. This is where Diablo drove old King Leoric mad and terrorized the people. I don't know what really happened here, but whatever it was horrible. Nearly everyone who survived went mad.
And that's Diablo 1 summarized in about 2 sentences. I'm not exaggerating. We have just summarized D1 right there. It's one of many reasons why I say you really don't have to play D1 to get the story, because they cover it pretty thoroughly. So Rumford, what do you got for me?
Thank you for your help. But could you talk some sense into Leah? She won't give up on the idea of rescuing her uncle.
Nor should she. I will help her find him.
Quest complete. If I had a friend who was on the other side of the universe, he would still get credit for that quest, because we completed it. You need to stop doing that. There we go. Oh yeah, by the way, did you notice that this will also indicate when you have something new in your inventory, like it just did, so boop. So yeah, so we're going to do something we already talked about doing. Let's fill out our inventory slightly so we have slightly better stats.
To take a look at.
Because we, honestly, at this point, literally anything is better than nothing. And we've got 3 billion gold. Oh. But Lar, why? No, I literally cannot get rid of my 3.6 billion gold. So I'm not even going to attempt to do so. I'm just going to accept that it's there. You'll notice we can't get it. So shoulders, I forget the exact levels, but it's like bracers start showing up at like level 10, I want to say. Shoulders are like 15 to 20 something, and head is like 20 to 30 or something. So you don't. It's actually very similar to how WoW is designed. I feel like I said that before. So there's several times in which you will start to see this as you're leveling up. Go. Anything gooder here? Nothing gooder. It's a word now. You can quote me on it. Someone asked what's the point of the item. So I don't practically have access to this yet, but we're just going to cheat. Salvage. I want to salvage all my grays. I want to salvage all my blues. I'll also want to salvage these things, which I can't because that's a quest item and that's a vendor item. But that's what salvage is. Salvage gets you this stuff. So ignore ignore everything on the screen except for the parts under crafting factory. I should just go ahead and do this really quick. There we go. Okay, so this is what salvaging gets you. Now you may think, oh my god, Laura, you have 12,000 reusable parts. You're good. No, I'm not. As I've mentioned before, getting enough of this stuff, like this gets expensive when you start getting into crafting the good stuff. And a lot of this is used for some high-end things, which I'm not going to bore you with right now. Don't worry, all the recipes are in the game. But that's the benefit of going ahead and looting crap. You don't have to loot crap, but considering how incredibly easy it is to dump the crap, there's not a lot of reason not to. Because what you can do is you can be out, killing. Oh, my inventory is full. No problem. I warp back to town instantly.
No way.
And I warp back here and I'm like, aha! Rush up to the guy who you'll notice is the closest NPC to you. He's right here. Hit the salvage button, hit the salvage all, and immediately go right back to where you were. That's ignoring the town portal, which we haven't unlocked yet, which makes this even faster. So there's really not a lot of detriment to doing that.
Come, let us search for your uncle.
We'll need to open the cathedral first. The guards locked it up before they were ambushed. Rumford told me they fought their way back to Adria's hut. The key must still be there.
Gold. So gold is... The way they do gold is kind of interesting. Gold is actually... Yeah, as Dakota says, gold is used for a lot of things. And you will need large quantities of gold in this game for a lot of things. The only thing that gold isn't really useful for is vendors. Ironically. As I've already mentioned, vendors kind of become obsolete very quickly.
Will carve a furrow in the sky, and this shall be a sign unto you that the end is come.
Yeah, durability. God, I barely remember that there even is durability in this game. They kind of patched that into oblivion. They should have just gotten rid of durability entirely, but whatever. They've got the Guild Wars 2 problem there. Anyways, I hope you're enjoying the sushi, Gigi's. Let's head back.
Here, let me open the gate. Adria was my mother, but I don't know much about her. She died when I was very young. I was raised by Uncle Deckard.
What about your father?
I'm told he was a great warrior and was lost when Tristram fell to the demons.
No comment. T-O-T-K. T-O-T-K. The other total kills. The Otter Thunder Kings. Actually, I'd play the hell out of it yet. Oh, Tears of the Kingdom. I haven't even looked at it yet. I haven't had time. I have been so low on time. I haven't even put in the donations from the last 3 days in yet. Anyways, I've been turbo busy. I have barely had time to start building the first scene in the FFR rewrite, or FF1 rewrite. I definitely haven't had time to watch that. Okay, so I was going to do something specific. I guess it doesn't matter. You notice we got a quest indicator on the map. I wanted to show this off earlier. In fact, there it is. You can actually mouse over it if you happen to be curious what it is.
Hidden cellar. Follow me.
Leah? Leah? Okay.
There was more to your mother than you know.
People said she was a witch, but I never believed it.
I thought this had controller support. Not that I would give that a negative if it didn't.
Captain Dalton!
Hey, it's the former captain of the guard. Oh. So, that's the ice enchant. I forget what it's actually called, but that could be a fun one. There's several cases of hope you're paying attention to the ground from boss abilities, and that's one of them. There's also a molten one, and it was the plague one we've already shown off. I'm always working on projects, Chris. Are you kidding me? The Diablo rewrite goes live Saturday. Plug, plug, plug. And of course, the FF1 rewrite is currently in auditioning phase.
I don't have enough arcane power.
I mean, I was kind of hoping to finish scripting FF2 during this short dark, but then I was sick for a week, and that slowed me down a little bit. Yeah, we all know the worst of these is actually the damn arcane enchant.
Nicely done.
An enchant so terrible they had to add it into WoW. What do we get? Nice.
Here's the key, and my mother's journal. What I've seen of it is disturbing. I want to know more about her, but that can wait. We need to save Uncle Deckard first.
I'll search the cathedral. You stay here and learn what you can.
Thank you.
Aiden came to me last night. I suspected what was lurking within his troubled heart. I consoled him as best I could. Regardless, wherever he's headed, hell will surely follow in his wake. The shadows close in on Tristram once again. But like Aiden, I'll be gone before they fall.
How did your mother die?
Well, details are hazy, but I know that Adria was obsessed with chasing the arcane. She knew she could never raise a child. Uncle Deckard believes that the madness and horror of her life finally caught up with her.
Yeah. Adria is in the rewrite, before you ask. That's all I'm going to say about that right now.
I need arcane power.
He's a good author, comma. He hasn't finished work on his last book in forever. Very, very frustrating! Exclamation mark. So let me ask you a random question, Effect, and I'm not trying to be cheeky, I'm actually curious. If I just tell you Diablo rewrite, what pops into your mind? What do you think it is?
Need more arcane power.
I mean, I don't know if Kane avoided the insanity of what he saw. But if we're being honest, Kane was just kind of a down-to-earth, legit guy. No need to be insulting, Crazy Norse. I'll be talking about that Saturday, too. Because that's a whole topic, really. God, I love the visuals in this game so much. I'm sorry. Have you paid attention to how they bother to... Like, we're stuck with this camera angle, but they bother to use the camera, knowing the camera's going to be around here, just to kind of get across a little bit of that visual feel of the twisted, rotting, like, corrupt-looking trees, you know? Just so you can get a vibe for what you're supposed to be going through, because they can't change the camera angle, or rather, they don't change the camera angle. They go chkunk, or they go chkunk, or whatever. Instead, we're stuck up here, so they design paths. This is not the first or last time they're going to do this. And yeah, this is one of the more boring zones, all told. They do some really cool stuff with this. Yeah, we got the vibe of it. God, I love the visuals of this game. Get George R.R. Martin. Gurm would be an interesting pick for that. So 2 Base Master pretty much hits the nail on the head.
Unlucky villager.
Oh no! The dead! Wait. So the rewrite is my take on the stories. It's actually, there's a whole lengthy, complex thing I'm not going to bore you with right now, but it's currently my primary focus as far as my creative outlets. Obviously, streaming is my primary job and takes up the overwhelming majority of my time, but pretty much all my free time that is not spent cooking or cleaning or hanging out with my family is being spent on the rewrites. The Diablo rewrite's already done. So, you know, that's cool. That, like I said, that's going live Friday. And then we already have several other rewrites planned, which include the Final Fantasy series. We're doing them individually, so, like, there's 12 there. So the 12 FFs, Mega Man is on the block. We're definitely doing a Mega Man rewrite. We're definitely doing Star Wars. We're definitely doing Star Trek. And StarCraft and Warcraft. And those are all the ones that are penned in, ones that we are definitely committed to someday doing. There's a whole lot of other suggestions which are penciled in. We're still debating those. I think in the interest of speeding this up, we're going to go and take it down a notch.
So this is Tristram Cathedral. A fallen star somewhere inside.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. Star Shrek. I like it! Except, at that point, that would be a Star Trek Shrek crossover. Alright, so hang on. We need to change a couple things. Let's turn this up. And let's turn this a little bit. Just a little bit down. There we go. That should do good. We could spend those Paragon points, but, you know, we're trying to show off a little bit of what it's like at this point. Well, I gotta warn you, I'm rather fond of Minsk as a character, so he's probably gonna be a thing in the StarCraft rewrite. You know what I've already said this, but you know what the really hard part is gonna be about the StarCraft rewrite? One of my actors is gonna have to voice Minsk, and one of them's gonna have to voice Raynor. Those are some big shoes to fill. So anyways, we just got a Ray of Frost rune, which reduces the channeling cost, so cheaper. Okay, so basic runes. First rune, increased damage. Second rune, reduce cost. Actually, Mengsk is a monster played Jabal. What are you on about? Like, holy crap. I love him as a character. But, ugh. So, yeah, here's the cathedral. The cathedral. You know the one. Gotta have the picture here, right as we pop in. Wow, do you know how rarely I've encountered someone who even knows what the Myth series is, Friscoborn?
This must be where the star fell. Its crater is tinged with some strange magic.
Yep, strange magic. We'll come back to that. Because we're gonna have to give our first story negative when we get there. Anyway, so terrain damage is a thing. It's not a big thing, and it's really only there for, like, gimmicky purposes. I get the very strong impression they wanted terrain damage to be, like, a major aspect of the game. And then they got rid of it.
This will be a good battle!
Another Vortexer. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Okay, hang on, hang on. This is a champion pack, too, so we might be here a minute. Oh, jeez. Hello. Oh, God. I'm being raided. Oh, God. Oh, God. Hello, everyone. I got one of them. Ah!
Need more time.
Yeah, mother. So my mother texts me, so what are you playing today? Ah, here, have some lore to listen to.
My name is Latdanan, and I'm cursed. Once the captain of King Leoric's army, I left only to honor my land and my king. No man has a greater love for his king than I had for mine, even as I drove my blade through his dark and corrupted heart.
If my old masters could see me now.
Okay. Hi. We do have donuts. Ooh, we just got a new ability, which is, of course, a new defensive ability, Diamond Skin. So Diamond Skin is exactly what it sounds like. For 3 seconds, we absorb some of our life in damage from oncoming attacks. I'm going to keep with Frost Nova for now. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Yes, we are definitely going nuts for donuts here. I already kind of referenced this earlier, but as you can see, it does still contain the explorative nature of the game. In other words, not every map is completely filled out as soon as you get to it. In fact, most of them are not. This is also when we're going to start to see more randomization. The cathedral can take several formats. And that's true for most of the major dungeons in the game. So even though some of the areas are fairly static, as we showed off on the approach to Tristram during the tutorial, actual dungeons tend to be a little bit more morphic. That was over there. So, you can already see one of the big differences between this and Diablo 2. Diablo 2, the amount of enemies I just killed, even if I was doing well, would probably have caused me some issues. Here, even though we're on Expert, I did turn it down a step to speed it up a little bit, we're just kind of chipper shredding our way through. Like I said, that's kind of D3 in a nutshell. You are intended to be killing quickly, as what I just kind of mentioned in chat. Ironically, this is part of the all-important pacing I already mentioned. I do kind of like how the cathedral has, like, the lower level visible down there, so you can actually see something in the abyss other than just black whatever. You know, like an empty, non-render area. Well, I hope you enjoy that one, too! Exclamation mark. I've never heard of that author, comma. What series have they done? Question mark. To my knowledge, most of these are handcrafted, Bamber. But again, I keep calling them puzzle piece. That's because that's their terminology. They call them puzzle pieces. Yeah, like, look at how many zombies are right there. This would probably be death or slow slog in D2, especially with our friggin' druid. Here, well... I think you get it. By the way, hi, let's do this. Sorry I didn't say hello earlier. Actually,
my power grows.
Got a lot to keep track of. Speaking of which, we just leveled again. Pause for a second. Until we get out of combat. Which is weird. Are we aggro to something? Hello? Oh yeah, I can't wait to show off Disintegrate. What are we aggro to? It wasn't the statue. Oh, I hear ya. Oh, it's probably over here. No, we didn't even look at these. It was apparently them. Whatever. Anyway, so... new ability. Wave of Force. It's kind of exactly what it sounds like. It does damage. And that's always neat. But... we also gain our first rune for Shock Pulse, which now makes it so that slain enemies killed by that ability now explode, doing cold damage to every enemy within 10 yards. Also makes it Frost Lightning, which just kind of sounds cool, in addition to general cool factor. Now we've got that ability, too. Let's go up left. Let's go up left. I just noticed we're almost nothing but ice damage. That's not on purpose. I'm not the Lich King, I swear. Oh, okay. So, that didn't take long. So that's a legendary. As you can see, it bothers to make it very clear when a legendary drops. It does this for set items, too. So obviously it's got the loot beam, which is nice. But also, as you can see, it shows up on the map. In fact, it shows up on the map, too. So you can always tell when an item, a set or legendary item drops. It's pretty hard to miss these. You'll also notice we got one pretty early, but we don't know what it is. And now we know what it is. So, yeah, this is exactly the legendary I thought we'd get first, which is Leoric's Crown. It's also our first helm. Yeah, well, we know exactly what that is. Of course, it's Leoric's Crown. Leoric's Crown is actually pretty useful. Int, Vite, regen, you know, all that's whatever. Pretty decent rolls. Not great, but decent rolls. But no, That last orange thing, increase the effect of any gem socketed into this by 79%. That is really nice. Now, we don't have any gems yet. We'll talk more about gems in a bit. But that can be extraordinarily useful. We are going to go ahead and put it on. Oh yeah, our appearance actually has an appearance in this game. We'll talk more about that when we get to transmogging. That's funny, Opeg. And yeah, in no way do I want to diminish anyone's opinion. That's never my goal here. Unless you're a dick, in which case screw you. But no. Plenty of people I know do not like the visual style of D3. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't like the visual style of Dark Souls. And I know I'm in the minority on that one. I love the visual style of D3. I think it looks great. I think it's pseudo-cartoony, like Warcrafty style. Actually works really well for me. And will probably continue to work well for me 10 years from now, right? I think this is going to be something that I'm going to continue to enjoy the appearance of the game, the aesthetic of the game, for a long time. It is also very visible. Ironically, despite how seemingly dark it is, there's a lot of effort being done into color distinction, and into where and how light things are being lit, so that you pretty much always know what you're looking at. Oops. I mean, obviously, this is Blizzard, right? A lot of work has been done by a lot of people in order to make this look as good as possible. Yes, I did see that, Dream Whisperer. That's the elective mode that I mentioned earlier. So to demonstrate that slightly, so we have Frost Nova and Diamond Skin, but you know, honestly, why don't we go ahead and, whoops, use the wrong button. Why don't we go ahead and make this Diamond Skin? There we go. And now we just have 2 defensive abilities equipped. Boop. Destroying everything as we go here, as is tradition. We'll see what I think of D4 if we ever get there.
Keep the dead trapped here. Akarat, save me.
Yeah, at certain difficulties, it's actually really worth it to hit Destructibles. Which is probably why I'm doing it completely on muscle memory without even thinking about it. It's also usually very easy to do. Like, a single sweep can usually be like... Yeah, we're good. It's also satisfying. It's not quite the rolling into the barrels and pans thing, but it's kind of leaning in that direction. Yeah, I love what they do with the culling. Check this out. Like, hang on. Let me kill some things really quick first. Just a second. Until we turn the diff down, because that didn't instantly kill me. We done? We done? Hey! Okay, cool. This is a wall. Same wall. And what I love most about how they do it, so that kind of foreground culling, or whatever that's properly called, is actually semi-common in video games. Even Neverwinter Nights 1 has a degree of culling. Actually, it doesn't literally cull. What it does is it makes a spot so you can see through terrain to see yourself. But it's fairly common in video games to try and cheat the camera by simply letting you see through wherever it was. But what I love most about it in D3 is thought was clearly put into what specifically to cull, right? Like, you can't even say it's the specific bricks. Because if you look back there, it actually chops one of those bricks into a portion. So someone sat down and essentially designed every area twice with regards to walls and blocks and things that are going to get in the way of the camera. Like this overhang we just went under. It's so smooth, I've known people who don't even notice that they do it. That don't even recognize that it's doing that as they're going through, just to maintain visibility. Love it. Absolutely love the effort put into that. In fact, I'm going to jot that down, because that's definitely a graphics thing. This game's gonna get so many positive guys. Oh my god. I have no idea how many. But there's gonna be several. There's no such thing as an original idea, Cubic Skull, and even if there was, who gives a goddamn? Blizzard has never done an original thing in their life. They've just done things better. I say, without hyperbole, that I wish Blizzard would go back to stealing ideas from people and then implementing them better. Oh, I love this game, Joyous Boyous. Unabashedly, unironically, unremittingly. Start making up words here. Yeah, even Warcraft was supposed to be a Warhammer game. And then they're like, oh, well, we don't want to lose it, so let's make our own thing. Yeah, they are not innovative. Blizzard has never been an innovator. They have always been codifiers. They have always been the group that takes something and tries to make something better out of it. And if you don't understand why I praise that, because that sounds like they just steal and get credit for it, it's because they put a huge amount of time and effort and work and creativity and skill into that iterating. They don't just sit on it. They don't just copy-paste it without thinking about how to implement it. That has a different term. That's bullet point syndrome. Blizzard usually actually thinks about how to implement the ideas they steal. Whoops. I'll just write this down, too. Thank you, Hediori, very much. Always appreciate those subs. Much obliged. Much appreciated. Thank you. And I put that down towards the Dragon Age block. So I think we're done here. No, we didn't actually sweep, but we're good.
Foul minions, stay back! Back! May this wedge hold. The Skeleton King?
The power of the fallen star awakened me, and soon all will suffer as I have suffered. Gods, bring me his bones!
Skeleton King is way cooler here. Love his voice actor.
King, I will save you!
Stay back!
FF2. Oh god, what do we do? Let's make troll rooms. Ah. So that is Nephilim Glory. It's kind of exactly what it sounds like. Health and power globes will magnify the intensity and extend the duration. You move faster and do blasts of damage on your enemies. We'll talk more about what that means later.
Oh, thank you. But why did you risk yourself for me?
You live. Fortune smiles on you, old man. I'm here to bring you back to Leah.
Oh, it is wonderful to hear that Leah is well. I feared the worst. I learned of this secret passage through old maps I found.
Let's get this out of the way. Cain surviving this long is dumb. There's like no real reason for them to go this direction with it. Especially for functionally a week. Like, Cain surviving in here for a week is already kind of bending believability. The fact that he didn't find his way out in a week is even worse. So it's like several problems built up to each other. There's the fact that he survived the trip down here. The fact that he's just running around free, and then the fact that he didn't get out. Yeah, Cain is fan service, and it's badly done fan service. Negative to story. I'll be right back. Yeah, where do you get food and water? Like, I know the place wasn't really a mess before the meteor hit it. But, like... What? He's just hanging out. Yeah, doing his thing. I mean, I'm kind of with you on that, Mr. Red. The transmog game in WoW is the best it's ever been in gaming. Speaking of, this is as good a time as any to mention something. How many of you enjoy Blizzard stories? How many of you enjoy Blizzard main plots? A very common trend for years has been that Blizzard's main plots kind of suck. That was actually true even in D2, frankly. But the side stories of D2 and of D3 and of WoW and of other games I can mention right now tend to be a lot more interesting and engaging. This game right here is going to be a perfect example of that. Because I guarantee you the story score is going to be hugely net positive. And it's going to be one of those situations where we're going to give pluses to almost every aspect of the story except plot. And the plot is just going to fill out the whole negative side of things, because the plot of this game is dumb. Like, at every step, it's just... Really?
We must discuss the fallen star. Follow me to Tristram.
Well, okay. I guess I'll take a donation from Vigilant. To Tristram! Wait, what's a condor? Why is a condor? I'm so confused. Thank you, Vigilant. Always. And I will put that towards HOI4, Old World Blues. As a reminder, you can put that towards up to 3 things at no cost if you want to. Asmodan. Yeah, Asmodan... I have defended his writing, and I will probably continue to do so. But Asmodan is just hysterical in how pathetic he is. In fact, spoilers, Asmodan is very, very pathetic in the rewrite. Fallout London. Is that on the list still? It's Madunk. I mean, I actually really like playing as Asmodan in Heroes of the Storm.
I have fulfilled my promise to Leah and rescued her uncle, Deckard Cain. Now, all that stands between me and the fallen star is the Skeleton King, who has returned to darken Tristram once again.
Dun dun dun.
Uncle, you're alive!
Thanks to you and your friend here.
Our time is running short.
And the writer.
About the fallen star.
Not much, I'm afraid, though the prophecy of the end days surely points to it as a sign that the end has begun.
Please, Uncle, not more of your stories. All that matters now is that you're back.
Oh my god, it is! It's a fake cane!
I've spent most of my life traveling from place to place with Uncle Deckard, while he did his crazy research.
What is he looking for?
He's convinced that the forces of hell will invade our world and bring about the end times. All these years, he's still searching for a way to stop this apocalypse.
Yes, that's Jennifer Hale. I'm not actually going to give a negative for the fact that Leah, for some reason, in this setting, has problems believing this. It is strange, but I'm going to give a negative to something related towards it later. We'll get there, probably today. Probably after the lunch break. Whoops.
What did you discover about your mother?
She wasn't from Tristram originally. She came here during the Troubles. She was in search of something, but I'm not sure what. She reminds me of Uncle Deckard, obsessed with the war between angels and demons.
Roll my eyes. Angels, demons. Uh-huh, whatever.
The Skeleton King was once our beloved lord, Leoric. He was driven mad by Diablo's evil. He lost both of his sons and his very soul before he was finally defeated. Now it seems he's risen to plague this land once again.
Leoric's tale is sad, but I'm here to find the fallen star, and the Skeleton King stands in my way.
The key to defeating him lies in his old crown. Seek out our blacksmith, Hadrig. He knows of its whereabouts. Leah, you should not dismiss the signs so lightly. Do you not believe the evidence of your own eyes?
Horrors have visited Tristram before, and it endured.
But what of the texts? The Zakarum tomes warn of a falling star. The Herodric scroll spoke of the dead rising, and the Lord of Lies. The prophecy of the end days says that at the end of all things, the first sign shall appear in the heavens.
Yes, you've been telling me about the texts since I was 8 years old, Uncle. I just don't think we should read too much into them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Kane? Buddy? Who are you?
I am the last of the Herodrim. I couldn't always claim this. In fact, if I had turned to the Herodric teachings sooner, Diablo could have been stopped before his reign of terror began.
You can't truly believe that.
When the first signs appeared, I did nothing. I had shrugged the old tales off like they were so much fantasy, and Tristram, No, the world has paid dearly for my arrogance. I have tried to make up for my failings. Leah and I have spent her lifetime scouring the world, collecting pieces of the prophecy of the end days. If I can decipher it, we will have the key to defeating the Lords of Hell.
Real quick. Just because some people are going to bring it up, there's a nice big time gap in between D2 and D3 for no reason. In fact, I'll actually tell you the reason. It's so that she can exist. That's it. And considering things, that was completely unnecessary. Consequently, in the Diablo rewrite, there is no time gap. D3 starts... Well, actually, you know what? I can tell you the exact amount, because I keep a calendar when I do writing, in order to keep track of dates and times. I highly recommend it for anybody getting into writing. So give me a moment, I'll just pull up the calendar right here. Let's see, so D2 is right here. So that means D3 starts 12 days before D2 terminates. In the rewrite. In real life, I'd have to Google that. I don't know.
I notice a great fondness between you and Leah.
I do not know what my life would have been like had I not raised her. Oh, it must have been difficult for Leah, following an old man on a mad search for the secrets to defeating the lords of the burning hells. But though she has seen her share of mysterious things, she is still unsure of my quest. I can understand. She has never seen anything like Diablo and his brothers. The prophecy of the end days is contained within the Herodric tomes I inherited from my ancestor, Jared Kane. It is a warning to those who could interpret it regarding Hell's ultimate invasion of our world, written by many different people throughout history, in many different lands. All known versions of the prophecy are incomplete. I have spent a good part of the past 20 years trying to complete it. I am certain it holds the answers to defeating the Lords of Hell.
You said Diablo drove Leoric mad?
Leoric resisted Diablo's attempts to possess him, but the effort left him weak and confused. When his son Albrecht was kidnapped to be a vessel for Diablo, it destroyed any sanity Leoric had left.
What happened after he became the Skeleton King?
He commanded an army of the dead deep within the cathedral, finally serving the Lord of Terror he had resisted while alive. Many adventurers tried and failed to slay the Skeleton King. It was left to Leoric's eldest son, Aiden, to finally kill the monster his father had become.
I mean, honestly, the holocron the holocron concept would have worked quite well for something like Kane, but you know, whatever, I suppose.
Uncle Deckard is home, rescued from the clutches of the Skeleton King. I'm so glad. But the Skeleton King, I thought he was a folktale. The idea of Mad King Leoric returning to torture this place. Hasn't Tristram suffered enough?
Nah. Death to Tristram, and death to the living! Oh, sorry. I mean, Takoda's right. It would be very in character for him to try and, you know, retain some of his knowledge after his death.
So this is how it ends? They dragged my cart from the road, but for what? I can't get it repaired. Might as well dig a hole and die in it.
If that will make you feel better, perhaps you should.
Yep. Does Tristram survive the setting? In canon?
Items that I'm certain you'll love.
We'll go with yes. But I don't know what's happening in D4, obviously. In the rewrite, definitely. Tristram actually is doing a lot better after the rewrite. But yeah, in canon, who knows?
Don't touch anything unless you're buying it. I like to keep my inventory clean.
Hell, even the beta of D4 kind of zooms in a little bit to try and restrict how much of the story you get access to, which makes a lot of sense, right? He's not there right now.
Leah spent all night alongside the blacksmith's wife, tending the wounded.
What? She was out defending the gates this morning. What is driving that woman?
Well, the original Tristram is gone, Cubic Skull. In fact, if you'll forgive me for a moment. Here's Tristram from D1, right here. It's not in great shape. And nobody lives here anymore. Probably because, well, I mean, look at it. So, in answer to your question, does Tristram survive D1? The answer is super no. We are at New Tristram. Which is over here. Which, of course, sprang up in the last 20 years, because it's been 20 years since D2 for some reason. We're not talking our age.
Yeah, old Rumford has us down to half rations. How are we supposed to fight if we're starving?
The rest of the town is down to quarter, including my wife. But you can quit if you want.
I love these little side conversations. They help flesh it. I've already said this. Blizzard tends to excel at their side stories. It's kind of weird, honestly. Because it's such a recurring thing that Blizzard does so much better with side stories than main plot. I don't actually know why. Like, you'd think the same mentality would go into writing an engaging character bit as well as writing an engaging plot. And yet... Oh yeah, I need to show that one off too. I mean, it's probably literally different writers, and that's what I've assumed for years, but it continues to be a thing. Like, so one of the arguments that's been mentioned by Huthor specifically is that maybe there's more executive mandating to, let's call it what it is, Hollywoodize the main plot. To try and make the main plot as dumb, and I'm going to say it that way, as dumb and as flashy as possible in order to appeal to popular audiences. And then if you want an actually good story, well, sure, you could put that over in the side stuff that you have to go out and search out. There is a logic to that, which I violently disagree with, but there is at least a logic to that mentality. Let's talk about WoW for just a second. I know, nobody likes it when I talk about WoW. Dragonflight, the latest expansion, has really, really good stories. Its side stories, its little character moments, its little side arcs, its zone stories have been some of the best stuff in years in terms of WoW quality, in terms of quality of storytelling. But then there's the plot. The main plot of Dragonflight is bonkers level stupid. And it's, even ignoring the quality of it, it's all focused on a great threat has arisen that will destroy the entire world, and we must stop them, or else everything we've ever known will burn. And it's that, right? It's that stupid existential crap. And it's not like existential great threats can't work. I can name several settings, games, stories, shows, books, movies, where an existential threat can work. But it's really dumb at this point. First of all, they're repeating the damn plot thread for the 50,000th time in WoW. But yeah, it's just a threat of the week. But that's the other problem. It is a threat of the week. This is not a spoiler. The main big threat of the Primals, they're a joke. Like, I look at these people and I'm like, why are you a threat to me? Why are you a threat to anybody? At this point in WoW's history, we, the player character, but also just in general, like the heroes as a group, have taken down old gods and titans and demon lords. What are you? Oh, you're a dragon who's been sealed away for a couple millennia. Yeah, there's a reason that recurring joke, I've been to space, isn't actually a joke. We've literally been to space. Twice. It's exactly. It's like, oh, you're a dragon. Cool. Fun fact, the starter boss, the Dragon Queen, is actually a skin for a mount. And that's my point. They tend to lean into this. Oh my god, all of reality will burn. It is, and you'll notice they're already doing this in D3 vanilla. We must fight against the end times. It is the beginning of the end of everything. The great prophecy speaks of the signs, and it's the same goddamn crap. It's hitting the exact same beats for the exact same reasons. It's bearing it down to the lowest common denominator to try and be as big and flashy as possible without having any real substance to it. There's good story in this game. I swear to God. There's good story in this game. But the main plot is not it. Okay, sorry. Massive thing. I didn't mean to bore you that long. Oh, it looks like I already missed that one. Already got this. Yeah, okay.
See, the problem is, they never should have named this place New Tristram. We wouldn't be getting attacked all the time if we were called, oh, I don't know, New Wellington, would we?
Got a point. He's got a point. Just saying. Oh, we'll get there, Blade Tripal. We'll get there. Yeah, D3 is the most fundamentally changed in the rewrite. Even in terms of structure, the D3 rewrite is substantially different. I mean, Magda joins the party in the rewrite, for God's sakes.
Blacksmith, Deckard Cain said you could help me find the crown of Leoric.
Not now. It's my wife. She's locked in the cellar like all those who've been bitten. I'm to put them all down. But how can I kill my own wife?
I know it will be difficult, but she would want you to do it. I will help you.
Thank you. Follow me.
Don't worry, this game isn't dark at all. Now go murder your wife. No, I have not, but Falkenstein. Let's switch back to this. Nice, healing recovery area.
My friends, I'm sorry.
You are helping them. You don't need to be sorry.
Yeah, we're a dick, by the way, as a wizard. I haven't mentioned that already. Yeah, wait until we hit Act 5. You'll see some dark. Holy crap. The side stories in Act 5. Oof.
Sarah, my love, forgive me.
Hedrig, help me.
Also, yes, quest rewards are also randomized like any other loot.
I couldn't have done this without you. I'm in your debt. My name is Hedrig Aemon.
Well, Hedrig, Deckard Cain told me you know where Leoric's crown is.
I can help you there. It's buried with his Chancellor, my grandfather. You'll find his tomb in a cemetery in the Weeping Hollow. And if you see my fool apprentice out there, tell him to get back to town.
This admittedly falls a bit flat. He should probably be a little more impacted by having to murder his wife. I get the idea of what they were going for. No, I really do. And that is, when you go through something traumatic, you bury yourself in your work. But I think Simon Templeman is a sufficiently skilled actor for them to be, you know, able to do more with this. You know? It wasn't a happy marriage. Aha!
I have some new items that I'm certain you'll love.
Your grandfather was King Leoric's Chancellor? Tell me about him.
Not much to tell. I lived with my father in Chaldeum at the time. We heard that my grandfather stayed in Tristram until the end, trying to save lives. Don't know if he succeeded, but there it is. When the Skeleton King fell, my grandfather was dying from a sword wound. He had the crown sealed with him to keep it safe.
I studied the fall of Tristram, but it is easy to forget that it happened to real people. Your grandfather was a brave man.
Wait. We're supposed to be a dick. We're supposed to be like, your grandfather was pathetic. He deserved to die. Fnoff. Anyways. Hey, we got our first passive skill. So, these are the talents that I've actually already referenced. They are exactly what they sound like. They're passives. You don't actually use them. They vary wildly in usefulness. Some of them are only useful for a specific build, and some of them are only useful for in combination with others. There is, however, almost always one, which is that one right there. It's the Life 3 ability. I've already mentioned this. When you receive fatal damage, you instead get a shield, and your max life is increased for 5 seconds, and you get a stun and a knockback. This may occur once every minute. So, there's a couple of interesting ones, but first I want to say thank you to Baron, and as a reminder, you can split it towards up to 3 things if you'd like to. We'll go ahead and jot that down, however, for one thing at the moment. But for the moment, we have access to 2. Blur, which just flat out decreases damage taken by 17% across the board. And Power Hunger. You deal more damage to enemies further away from you than 30 yards. I'm going to actually go with Blur. Because that... Well, no, we'll go ahead and go with Power Hunger. It's okay. We can switch on the fly. Check it out. Oh my god, I didn't have to go Google something in order to figure out how to switch my talents. Sorry. This is a good time as any to mention the respec. This game probably has the best respec system I have ever seen in gaming. It is so good, it probably qualifies for more than 3 positives because of how well designed it is. You can change these buttons pretty much at will, as long as you are not currently in active combat. And whatever you're changing it to isn't on cooldown. So if I do this, then I try to change it, you'll notice I cannot because it is on cooldown. So this is amazing. I can just be like, I feel like doing magic missiles now. Boom, done. We have respect. And there are other layers to this. In fact, as I'm thinking about this off the top of my head, I can actually think of a better respec system than this. But as Blade Terval points out, this is arguably not even a respec system. This is more like an evolution of what respec even is. There's something else we're going to talk about, an evolution of. In fact, let's talk about it now before we cut off for lunch. That's a good idea. So let's go ahead and jot this down, shall we? So first we have the respec. We'll go ahead and put this here. Shouldn't there be a cost associated with the respecking? Why? So I mentioned how it's not really respecking, because you're not locked into anything. The only thing you're locked into is you're a wizard. No jokes, please. But that's my point. You're locked into your class, and that's kind of it. You can completely change this on the fly, however you want to at any point in time. But there's one other aspect of this game's design which I absolutely love, and that is New Game Plus. So we are currently, as of this moment, on the step where we are going to open the northwest gate of the Shattered Crown. But you know what? I feel like redoing something that we just did, just because I feel like it. Maybe I like the quest. Maybe I want to change it up. So let's go back to the beginning of the step of the quest we were just on. Like that. So now, we're on the step where we have just rescued Cain.
The Skeleton King was once our beloved lord.
Oh yeah, you can skip through these, by the way. And now we can talk to the blacksmith and help him kill his wife again. But you know what? Honestly, I don't like this step. Hang on, let's back out of here. Let's change this up, because honestly, let's just... I want to skip over that. That was traumatic. I don't want to have to kill Mira again. That's awful. Okay, so now we go to the Northwest Gate. I cannot put into words how good this is. It's also extraordinarily rare that you see a game that has this level of malleability in what is effectively chapter select. Because it's not just chapter select, it's more like checkpoint select. At every major checkpoint, in every quest, in the entire game, you can just warp to that moment in the timeline. It keeps you, right? Everything you've done, your levels, your gear, your equipment, your build, all of that is still you. It's similar to, like, say, Devil May Cry, for example. But the fact that you could select anything, and, of course, if we decide, I want to fight Mira, but, like, super hard, we could do that. Or I want to fight this area, but super easy, we could do that. You could change the difficulty, and you could change the exact point just like that. And that is incredibly awesome. That is enormously positive. That's why I say it's not really New Game Plus. It's more like an evolution of what New Game Plus is conceptually. Because it allows you to just kind of bounce around to wherever you want to for any reason. Maybe you want to redo a quest. Maybe you're trying to farm a specific thing. Maybe you are just trying to level and you happen to enjoy a certain part of the game more than others. Maybe a friend of yours is on an exact point in a game and you want to be on that exact same point as them, and you've already gotten past them. It is so fluid and so dynamic that it's fantastic, and I myself have used this many, many times in order to specifically join. We're not even getting into adventure mode yet. That's a whole other thing. So the New Game Plus of this is easily one of its better features. I can't even properly... I'm going to have to really sit and put some thought, probably over the lunch break, into exactly how many positives this gets.
Did you hear? Old Rumford has us down to half rations. How are we supposed to... Hey, come over here. I've got some new things you really need to see.
Nah, I'm good. Thanks, though. But before we go ahead and do that, I think we'll go ahead and cut off. We're about 4 minutes from lunch break. I have to decide how many positives that gets because it's so many. Ignore him. He's not there. Go out over the water here. Just enjoy the waves for a minute. Yeah, it's like this is definitely a situation where we're not at 3. The whole system works so that any given thing can have up to 3 positives or negatives. That's how the system's designed. But the way the system is also designed is that you can zoom in or out depending. For example, the example I always like to use is a level. A level of a Mega Man game, right? So a level may get 3 positives, but 3 positives is not actually how much you can give to a specific level, because if you zoom in more, there's aspects of the level, right? There's enemy placement, there's enemy design, there's music, there's graphics, there's visual storytelling, there's the boss design, right? There's the weapons you can get from it, there's the item stuff. There's so many different things that become a part of an individual point. So we could say New Game Plus is 3 positives, but if we zoom in more, this allows so much options and so many options and so much freedom to the player that we have to go above 3. And I'm just gonna have to think about exactly how we part and parcel that out. Okay. Talk. I'm gonna go grab lunch. See y'all in about an hour.